Okay, so Smoke and Snow, episode 3, season 2, the Crimson Coin. So, when last we left our player characters, they were at the Worms Watch Tower. So, I'm going to ask, does one of you guys want to give us a little capsule, like, what happened last time? If you can't remember or no one wants to speak up, I can easily do it. That's not a problem. Just to let me know.
Yeah, I think maybe do a collaborative effort.
Okay, well, what I'll do is I'll start off then, and if anyone wants to throw anything extra in, just chip in. Okay, so last session, the player characters went to New Zealand. They were just going through the main gates. There was a commotion at the gate, and there was this strange creature there that appeared to be able to masquerade in human form that was referred to as a changeling. It seemed to lose the ability to hold its shape when it was sprinkled with the holy water that the priest at the gate was sprinkling on everyone. A man called Bron was summoned with a wooden cart to take the body of the changeling away after the guards riddled it with crossbow bolts, and the body was taken via a side door to one of the local towers where the local apothecary, Zeb Crawford, took it inside. He was helped to take it there by Brock, with the other characters following along. Wymar asked the guards about arranging a meeting with Mercy Dixon, but he was told she mainly spends her time in Worms Watch, and she'd elected a mayor by the name of Elijah Kersey to handle the political and trade side of things in New Zealand while she was away. They went to a local tavern called the Hunter and Beetle, and after speaking to the taverner, they were told there were some great statues to the old gods that were the last work of 𝐂𝐮𝐫𝐿 the dwarf before he passed away. They also found out that 𝐂𝐮𝐫𝐿, their old sage friend, had apparently left the town some time ago, but that he worked on the town's defences with 𝐂𝐿𝐿 prior to his departure. They overheard a local trapper in the tavern talking about a huge troll looming out at him from a hole or a cave in the ground, a day or two to the east of the southern gateway they once used to access Dolmenwood. They bought some carts and supplies and stuff like that, and they wandered around New Zealand trying to orientate themselves before eventually deciding to go and have a look at these statues of the old gods, which they found, to their surprise, seemed to be based, the faces at least, were based loosely on themselves. Malcolm left some offerings there, and they chatted with a guy called Matt Lal, who is a priest of the old gods. Getting back to the tavern, news of the changeling had filtered down, and there were lots of rumours running rife about it. Brock investigated this holy water and discovered it was known as the Breath of Truth, and essentially it's holy water with powdered garlic, silver and iron in it. They bought a flask for each of the heroes, and one for a new hireling they'd taken on to manage their cart and stuff like that. They set off for Worms Watch, where Mercy Dixon, their old ally, was startled to see them. She invited them inside, and once she'd reassured herself they weren't changelings, she explained that the Fire Lord, a huge dragon now controlling a mountain range to the west, was once the lord known as Seth Brannan, who transformed himself into a red dragon. She gave them a bit of an update on the history and this strange event caused by the collision of the two planes, Dolmenwood and Valkonen, which has become known as the Knights of Colourless Fire. She then handed a deed signed by herself over to Wymar, naming him as the Castellan Defender of the Towers of New Zealand. She explained that she created the scroll years ago in the idea that if they ever returned and something had happened to her, her men would know to hand it over. And she was like, to be honest, I want to keep an eye on that dragon in those mountains. You'd be doing a favour taking me this off my hands. But the mayor might not be too keen. She also explained that the main concern in New Zealand is a sharp rise in crime. She thinks an organisation or a person's behind it, but she's only been able to obtain a name, the Crimson Coin. The heroes decided to rest at the tower before returning to New Zealand in the morning, and that's sort of where we're going to pick up. Unfortunately, we don't have Rob with us this evening. Nothing serious, he's just unavailable, so we're just going to do our normal, just fade Malcolm and his dog into the background, and we won't worry too much about that, and then we can just have him come straight in when he's back with us, hopefully next session. So unless you guys have got anything else you want to add to that quick sort of summary, we pretty much start.
Right, so
Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I was just gonna say that because we talked a whole lot, we got a lot of
Yes.
information, so we had sort of tried to map out what there is going on in the world right now, basically, and sort of some of the, I suppose, threats that need addressing that we knew from before and what's going on right now. And I think we had established, with the help of Dixon, that while of course we have a vested interest in looking into the Fire Lord, perhaps, and finish something that we sort of left half done, the Fire Lord's kind of not really, an active threat, and apparently neither is the I suppose the undead governed region of, I suppose, the Blood King of the North.
Indeed, yeah, you're absolutely right. You were told that by Mercy that the Fire Lord, as he's called, this huge dragon, sort of like resided in these Wormspire Mountains to the west. But aside from like sending his agents out, which were described as these blasphemous, perhaps sorcerously created sort of draconic humanoids, besides sending them out, and more recently and troublingly, the sort of changelings who can either shapeshift or maintain this illusion of a human form, it's not quite clear yet. He himself has been like noticeably absent. He's not been like romping over the map, like burning villages down or anything. He's mainly been staying in the mountains. And as you also rightly said, an area which has become known as Dracovia to the north, which is around the mountains where the Blood King to be sort of like bound into his frozen castle, that seems to have settled into a strange sort of area that's ruled by this sort of vampiric, you assume, like aristocracy, but they're not just like randomly killing everyone. They seem to actually be like governing the villages and such like in the area, albeit in a slightly sort of like twisted way. But things seem to have settled down more to a sort of like, I suppose, like Cold War style, with like people doing like espionage and sort of underhanded tactics rather than just like armies romping across the map.
Yeah, and this being the case, we had sort of determined that, well, we would go to basically root out some of the organized crime that we've heard about here. And to that effect, I predict we're going to rely entirely on Quentin to handle this, because the good Castellan, Lone Grove, and Brock the detective, not really good for this sort of thing. So the plan sort of was to have Quentin be the point man. We're going to hound out these criminals.
Indeed.
I'm happy to help with punishment rather than detective notions. The only other thing that we found out was the like the black sword or the dark sword was last seen on the what used to be the Witch Isle, wasn't it? The Beast
That's correct.
Mall, or
It's
you,
was there like a chasm hole? Something?
Yeah, you basically found out that during the nights of Colourless Fire, when like magic went rampant because the two planes were essentially getting mashed together, the Chaos Stone, which you guys know was like sort of drew in ambient magic that was on the island, sort of exploded, and the whole like center of the island collapsed into this almost, presumably people say it's like bottomless, but really probably just very deep chasm, which has become known as the Beast's Maw. And you know that the wielder of the Black Blade was supposedly on the island, so like at ground zero when that happened, and he was like seen falling into the chasm, and no one really knows what happened to him.
but again, that's not an active threat or anything that we needed to investigate like ASAP. So, yeah.
Indeed. Okay, so obviously all of you guys have effectively rested overnight at the Worms Watch Tower, as recommended by Mercy Dixon. You can all recover D3 hit points if you're down hit points. So, you get a chance to like rest in relative comfort, because there's like barracks there for the men and the guards, etc. And next morning, early doors, you rise in the morning. Again, it's a fairly sort of temperate morning, although there is a slight wind blowing, which makes it just feel a little bit chill, but nothing compared to like the Valkonen of old. As you rise, see the sun rising over the horizon. You know that it's roughly a day's travel to the northeast to get to New Zealand. Assuming you're still planning on going there, is there anything you want to do before you set off?
Because we have got horses as well, haven't we?
Yep, you've got a cart, a horse, etc.
Yeah, because I know you sorted them all out, but I couldn't see them on the
Let me have a look to make
sheets
sure
or anything. But
let me just see if I've.
I mean, it doesn't matter at the moment, but I know you did, and that was all.
Let me just make sure I've set the permissions right.
Oh, okay, maybe that's
Right,
what
okay.
it is.
If you go to player party, like the folder on the right.
Yeah, I couldn't see them listed. I can see a dog in there.
Right, can you see a folder called Animals and Non-Combat PCs in there?
Yeah.
If you open that, they'll be in there.
Oh, they've only just appeared for me.
Yeah, so you've got your cart, you've all got your horses, you've got Simon Duran, your sort of nasal hireling, your teamster, whose basically job is to sit on the cart and like care for your horses when you're not dealing with them. Obviously, he doesn't tend to get involved in any like actively adventurous or dangerous shenanigans because he's just there to like look after the horses and whatever. But
He's the
he
getaway driver.
Yeah, basically. But he seems to do his job pretty well. And as we discussed, he's got this like quite bulbous sort of warty nose, and he talks a bit in a bit of a nasal voice like this. But yeah, he seems to know. He's a bit of an odd fellow, but he seems to like know his stuff when it comes to animals. And you'll have found out as you're sort of like obviously spending time with him traveling that he grew up on a farm before he decided he wanted more from life. So he knows a bit about livestock and stuff like that, and that's where he sort of acquired these skills that he's later developed. Okay, so are you guys setting off for New Zealand?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, so you set off towards New Zealand. It's getting late in the evening. The day's passed fairly uneventfully. You've been travelling along the sort of fairly even terrain, sort of grassy terrain on the sort of coast of the free coast. Moving fairly quickly, making good time. You know, you're not going as fast as you would be if you've got just horses, because obviously you've got the cart and that doesn't go as fast. You have to manoeuvre around a few like stones and boulders and stuff like that, but it's fairly straight going. You're blissfully unmolested by like random encounters and things like that during the day. However, it's just getting late in the evening. Like I say, it's just started to get dark. It's not pitch black yet, but like, vision is limited, and you know that you're going to have to make camp within the next few hours, and then early the next morning you will arrive at the gates of New Zealand, and you're just about to like start looking around for a suitable camping spot, you know, like shelter, stuff like that, when you hear just in the distance from like beyond a small sort of smattering of trees, which are sort of small and stunted, like blasted as they are by the coastal winds, you hear what appear to be the sound of like raised voices shouting, and you hear like the sound of like horse hooves like clattering on the ground, and like the sound of horses like whinnying and like neighing. And then you also hear a which anyone who's heard a black powder firearm, which is all of you, recognizes as someone discharging a pistol.
Dismount.
Okay.
And go and blend with those shadows.
Yeah, that's not a problem at all. If you want to make yourself a roll for that, obviously feel free.
How far away did you say it was, John? Sorry.
We're talking. It's beyond this copse of trees, so we're talking probably about 100 foot, roughly, give or take.
Okay. And currently out of sight, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it'd be very difficult to see you at the minute. I mean, I'm assuming, and obviously correct me if you don't want this, guys, but I'm assuming you've got like, 'cause you're all around the sort of cart as you're moving. I'm assuming maybe there's like a lantern like hung on the front of the cart, so you just like driving along with that.
We'll give the poor driver some light.
Yeah. So
I think we're probably all used to wandering around in near dark now.
yeah, so you guys haven't got torches lit. So beyond the little like orb of light cast by the lantern on the cart, it's like I say, it's not pitch black yet, but it's getting quite difficult to see. You can maybe see like 10 foot beyond the torchlight, but it's all in muted shades of grey and details are difficult to pick out. But yeah, like I say, up ahead you can hear this shouting, horses whinnying, and as you look through the trees, Quentin, as you're sort of like disappearing into the shadows, you can just make out sort of through the trees as you're sort of looking through gaps in the foliage. You can see like the flickering of what may be lanterns or like torches just beyond this copse of trees. Obviously, we're not technically in combat rounds yet, so you guys can just shout at what you want to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm keen to investigate because we just don't know what it is, and it could be a threat to us. If we're looking to make camp, we don't want to leave something that could be potential threat. So I'll also sort of try and hide in the undergrowth and get closer, and I'm going to try and use their lights to sort of guide me rather than lighting up my own light.
Okay, yeah, that's not a problem. I mean, as you start moving through the copse of trees, and I assume like Quentin, you're doing the same because you were like disappearing into the shadows. As you both move forwards, now Brock, you're not exactly stealthy. Bear in mind, you're moving through a copse of trees and you're like gigantic. So I'm going to ask for a D6. I mean, you've got time, you're not rushing or anything. So I'm going to ask for a D6 roll from you. And if you get anything but a 1, you're grand.
Well, he has actually got a skill for it.
Oh,
so...
yeah. Well, you can roll on that.
Well, no, barbarians have got hiding undergrowth.
Oh, yeah, make a roll on that then.
I might as well roll on that.
For it.
Keep it simple. I don't look very good.
Okay. So, Quentin, you're sort of sneaking through the trees. Now, Wymar, where are you while Brock sort of stomps off into the trees? Quentin's just like gone. He stood there one moment and then he just like does that like Aragorn like step back into the darkness and he's just gone.
Mm. So, what are we talking distance-wise to our point of interest here?
Like I say, you've got to move through this small copse of trees, and then like you're thinking maybe like 10, 20 foot beyond that, it seems to be where the sound and these lights are coming from.
Right. So I think I'm gonna stay with the cart and the horses.
Okay, no problem at all.
And I will address things from there.
That is absolutely fine. Okay, so Brock, you're moving forward. Are you taking Lan with you, or is she staying with the cart?
She will come, but she'll be just sort of, I don't know, 20 foot behind me or something. So I'll sort of sneak ahead and have a look, and then call on her if I feel it's necessary, sort of thing. Believing that I'm stealthier than the others. Well, not as stealthy as Quentin, but...
Okay. So let's move on to this map then. You may not be able to see anything, Wymar, because of the light functions. I have put you in there, but I don't know if you can see the light of other people.
I can't currently even see the map yet because I'm loading.
Yeah, no worries. So I'll give you guys a description while the map's loading up. As you sort of creep forward, Quentin, you're sort of like staying in the bounds of the trees. You're creeping along. You're unseen, and that's not a problem. As you're moving through a sort of copse of trees, you look up and you can see what appears to be a guy wearing a sort of travelling all-weather cloak, and he's crouched in this tree top, so like obviously like as a lookout or something similar. As you peer out ahead of you, you can see what appeared to be 4 figures, again wearing sort of similar sort of travelling cloaks, like leather cloaks, on horseback. You notice that like one of them's sort of holding a pistol up. It's still like smoking, so it's obviously fired recently. They appear to be sort of circling around. You can see near the southern end of the map there is what appears to be a younger woman. She's got like a leather satchel. You see, she appears to like be standing in the middle of like a patch of herbs or some sort of plants. Like she was just picking them and putting them in a satchel. And you can see there's 2 of these figures, sort of like, again wearing similar cloaks, that are on foot, that are starting to like close in on her. And you can see she's got like a bit of a panicked expression on her face. She's sort of obviously looking around, trying to sort of like find a way out. Brock, in case it interests you, you recognise the herbs that she's picking. You know that it's sea holly. It was often used amongst your people to make a sort of revitalising tonic. You know, you sort of mulch it down, mix it with water, and then you drink it, and it gives you like a sort of boost of energy.
I don't get the impression that she's an ice walker, though, do I?
No,
No.
definitely not. Okay, so you see her looking around. She's obviously wasn't expecting these people at all. You see these people are sort of like these brigands, we'll call them for want of a better term, are sort of moving in towards her. As you're sort of like moving out, Brock, you accidentally sort of like stumble a little bit, and you stumble forward into the light of like the torch one of these brigands is holding up, and you hear from the tree to the north, so sort of like here, you hear a shout from the tree. Obviously, Quentin, you know it's this guy up in the tree, and the guy up in the tree is going to take a shot at you as he's sort of seen you. Effectively, he gets like a surprise action. So
yep.
Let me just make a quick roll for him. Okay, so a pistol is discharged from up in the trees. There's the acrid smell of gunpowder. You feel something like whiz past your left ear, so quite close, and then from the sort of south of you, a tree to the south, like the trunk gets like chewed up as these pellets impact with it and just chew up part of the bark. At which point the brigand here on horseback sort of like wheels his horse around, and he's looking straight at you and Lan, where you've sort of strayed into the torchlight, and he shouts something, but you can't really hear it over the sort of echo of the firearm that's been discharged. But he's like pointing in your direction, so it's obvious you've been seen.
Yep.
Okay, so we effectively go on to initiative. So does one of you guys want to roll for you? Just a d6 as always.
Can do. D6.
On.
Okay, so you guys are going first. So, what do you want to do?
Well, Quentin was probably better prepared for this and slightly sort of ahead of me. If you want to go first.
Yeah, and in fact, Quentin, if you want, because
I'm a
I
bit
forgot,
clumsy.
you can actually take 2 actions this round, Quentin, because you would have got a surprise action.
Nice.
So you've basically got like 2 moves and like 2 attacks if you want this round.
Okay, so I get a +4 bonus for the surprise attack. And I will throw my silver dagger at the man in the tree. Because he's elevated, he's going to be a bit more of a risk at the moment.
It's very true. Okay, make your attack roll. Okay. So I'm going to make a... You've hit him. He's not dead.
Yeah.
But your dagger sort of sticks in his side. I'm going to make a roll to see whether he falls out of this tree. I'm going to say I roll a d6 on a 1 or a 2, he falls out of the tree. Okay, no, he doesn't. He sways and you hear him like... "Argh!" as this dagger sticks in him, but he like grabs hold of the tree with his other arm. However, that does mean he's not going to get an attack this round, because he's basically just like holding on to try and stop himself falling out of the tree.
And I'll fire a crossbow at this one.
Oh, which one, sorry? Oh yeah, that one, yeah. Go for it.
Yeah.
It's going to hit. Okay. He's not dead, but your crossbow bolt, like, as he sort of is the guy who's wheeled around, your crossbow bolt thuds into his chest. You can see he's like still moving, but he like slumps forward heavily over his horse, and he's basically, you can see he's basically just like holding on round the neck of his horse, like you've almost finished him off. Okay. Obviously, if you want to do a couple of moves, you can do. It's 5 foot per square.
I'll move that way.
Okay. Okay, so Brock, what are you and Lan up to?
Okay. Well, seeing this guy sort of pointing and shouting, I think what I'm going to do is launch my normal spear at him, just to try and silence him, just in case some of the others haven't noticed us yet. But let's try that first. Oh, that's not good.
However,
15.
However, he only had 1 hit point left because Quentin had already like shot him with a crossbow. So this guy's just sort of like trying to recover himself and pull himself back up when your spear hits him in the chest, taking him bodily off the horse. He like falls onto the ground. The horse, sort of shocked by all this, obviously, immediately like scatters and runs off into the distance.
And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to run over here. Oh, these are grouped for some reason. What have I done there?
I'll tell you what, if you just ping where you wanted to go, I'll move it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm there, but I was trying to move Lan independently, but for some reason I've managed to link the two together.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
When you move them, I move too.
Yeah, I don't know why.
It's alright, just ping where you wanted to go and I'll move it for you.
And I think I've got it.
Okay, cool.
I think I must have drawn a box around it or something.
It's easily done.
Yeah. So I'm just going to run over and sort of try and engage this guy, and Lan's going to come over and assist me and take a swing at him on the back of his sword.
Okay.
Of course, sorry, with her sword. Oh, I think that's very good.
So that's Lan taking her attack. Unfortunately, due to this guy being sort of like raised up on the horse and being more agile, she's unable to land a blow on him.
Cool.
Okay. So we go on to the... Let's call them the bad guys for their turn while you sort of do your movement. So these two guys are going to run over here, and they immediately start sort of like wrestling and like trying to grab hold of the woman who's struggling, but they're very clearly going to overpower her because there's 2 of them and there's like 1 of her. The rest of the brigands do seem to have seen you, because obviously they've heard the guy up in the tree be like, "Ah!" as he got a knife thrown into him, and they've just seen one of the guys get taken off his horse by a spear as he's like, "Yeah!" and lands on the ground. So I'm going to have these 2 move to here. I'm going to have move to there. Okay, so I'm going to have one of them attacking Lan with a sword. Sort of rides in, swinging his sword. Probably doesn't do very well. No, it's only a 9. and then also one is charging towards you. You can see as he's a bit closer that underneath his travelling robe, it's like open at the front. He's got like a chain vest on. He's got a shield down by one side that he's sort of bringing up. You can see that he's like obviously practiced at riding a horse, because he's just like guiding it with his knees now. The reins have been like left on the saddle. He's bringing a shield up, and he's raising a sword as he rides towards you. And probably doesn't hit you with a 12.
No.
Yep. So he rides towards you, swings this sword down, and at the very last minute, you sort of forward roll under his sword strike and come up immediately to your feet, and he's sort of having to like wheel around slowly to try and get back to you. Okay, Quentin, can you make me like your hiding shadows roll? Just basically see if they spot you. No, they've not spotted you. Okay, so we're on to initiative again. So if one of you guys wants to roll a d6, I'll roll for the brigands.
I'm gonna go this time, Dave.
I've only got a 1, so I won't worry about it.
Before we do, did I miss something? Was that a surprise round?
It was only a surprise round for Quentin.
Right, and then everyone else was acting normally.
Yeah, that's why you got the double. Because I forgot to give us. So if you want to do something, Wymar, obviously, go ahead.
Yeah. So what's the sort of? Am I where I am on the map? Like, is that where the cart is?
Pretty much, yeah. Give or take.
Yeah. So if we use my token as the cart, because I'm not expecting you to put on a cart token unless you have one. How much does the cart move in a turn?
The cart, it moves like it's about 40 feet. It's similar to you guys. Obviously, it's much heavier, but it's got 2 horses. So
yeah. So if my crime-fighting friend, the cart driver, if I urge him to like put the horses in high gear, we're gonna send the cart forward along the path. If he's amenable to my plan of basically shock and awe, we're gonna charge in with the cart.
there we go.
Hopefully, maybe catch this dude that's on the.
I've enlarged your token a little bit just to sort of represent, to show that like you've got the cart with you. Okay, so you're effectively what you're trying to do, and correct me if I'm wrong, is you're trying to persuade your hireling Simon Durano, like deliberately was like, "Oh, I'm not into any like dangerous shizzle. I'll look after your animals, but like that's all you're getting." You're like, just bring the cart into like this combat with like these brigands, would you? Is that correct?
Yeah. So yeah, basically, I turned to him and it's like, this is the hour.
Cometh the hour, cometh the man.
I would ask of you to put us on a course of conflict with these gentlemen over here. You need not draw your steel unless you wish to do so.
He hasn't got steel.
Yeah, well, that'll make it more difficult. Basically, do you wish to jump off before we go?
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a morale check for him. If he passes, effectively you'll get to move the cart with him. Otherwise, he'll be like, "No, I'm getting off this train." Okay, so here we go. He has failed, unfortunately. So he's like, "Yeah, actually, if you don't mind, I'm just going to jump off the cart here. And yeah, you go right ahead. You not take the cart wherever you want. It's your cart. But I'll be right back here when this whole mess is over." And he sort of drops.
Yeah,
he hands you the rein drop, and he's basically going to hide himself.
Yeah, find a bush. I say as I start with the horses.
Yeah, no problem. And obviously you're sat on the cart anyway.
Yeah.
He sort of hands you the reins.
Yep. So the idea is to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What did you say? 40?
Yeah.
Feet. So that's 5 times. So are we? Was it
5 foot
5 per? Yeah. So 30, 35, 40. The horse disappeared, so it's not in the
Yeah,
way
no,
there,
the
I suppose.
horse is rode off. That's just where the guy's body is. That you unceremoniously
So I'll,
ride over in your cart.
So,
Okay, so
I'll,
so just to explain
yeah.
to the rest of you guys, as we're going into the new round, and we'll roll in initiative, you suddenly hear like a, and you hear like the, and you basically see your cart with its two horses, Sans Duran, your teamster, and like Wymar sort of sat in the front, like sort of old west styly, like lashing the reins as the cart goes rumbling down this coastal track, which is what you guys have been following because it makes travelling quicker. And he sort of like gallops between you guys, seemingly on like a direct course for one of the horseback brigands. And then we'll go into our normal initiative, which I believe, Dave, you rolled a 5-4. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay, so it's going to be you guys going first. Obviously, you guys feel free to go in whatever order you want.
I'll let Brock go first because he's going to make more distraction for me to keep on doing these sneaky moves. So,
Okay. So I'm going to continue to attack these guys here. So directly south of me, I'll attack that one.
Okay, so would you care to describe how you annihilate the guy to the south of you?
So basically, the guy sort of leaning down to obviously take a swing at me, and as he does, I'm just gonna stick my sword into his stomach basically, and just pull him off the sword, and he goes down with a heavy sort of crack and bones breaking, and
Indeed,
doesn't move from there.
And his horse carries on in the same direction as you sort of step out of the way. It continues running past the trees where Quentin is, unknowns to most people, and sort of disappears into the distance. Obviously, if you guys want to like round up any of these horses later on, you can do, but this is just for convenience sake to get them out of the way for the combat.
And then I'm gonna run over here to try and aid this woman, and Lan's gonna take a swing at this other guy on horseback. I'll leave her. I feel she's capable enough to deal with him.
Okay, she swings at this fellow. Unfortunately, again, he uses his increased sort of like maneuverability because of the horse to like sort of stay out of range of her swings.
Okay.
Okay, who's next?
I'm going to shoot the guy in the tree.
Yeah, I'm going to say the guy in the tree currently is the only person who knows where you are for obvious reasons. Although it's probably not going to matter
for
in
long.
about 5 seconds. Okay, so what are you using to take him out? Crossbow, yeah?
I'm using a crossbow here.
Okay, that's not a problem. So you aim upwards, and as you watch him sort of moving between the branches, you wait for a point where he's like leaping between branches. You loose your crossbow bolt, and you're rewarded with a satisfying scream. And then his body just like plummets through the canopy. There's like branches snapping, leaves going everywhere, and then he lands in a heap next to you.
That's good. That's my dagger safe.
Indeed. Okay. Wymar Old Westing it on the wagon, like down the path, like the horses are sort of like their heads are going up and down as they're sort of whinnying, and you hear the thunderous sound of their hooves pounding down this sort of like compressed dirt track.
So, well, how is this guy looking?
The guy in front of you, he looks fine, albeit slightly shocked, because he was like, "Oh, well, we're just going to like grab this like lone woman here. Oh, we're brigands. There's loads of us. It's going to be well easy." Then like a massive barbarian, or two massive barbarians, have like leapt out of the trees. One of his guys has just like screamed in, who was like one of his lookouts, and he's no idea what's happened to him. And then like this crazy man's just come like lashing out on a cart. So he looks a little bit surprised. You can basically see that he's sort of like lifting up a pistol to like point in your direction, but obviously he's not had a chance to like fire it yet.
Right. So in that regard, I'm gonna play chicken with him.
Yeah,
so
but basically these two guys are pulling like pistols out.
Yeah, the classic highwayman
Yeah.
fashion. Yeah, they better have like high collars and tricorn hats as well.
Hey, everyone's
So-
got tricorn hats, man. It's all the fashion.
So, yeah, I'm gonna stare into his soul, and we're going.
Okay. So
I
what's
basically
your
I'm gonna
aim,
run
what's
him
your aim
over.
in doing this? You're literally just trying.
I'm gonna, yeah.
Okay. So what I'm going to say is make an attack roll using your base attack,
Okay.
and then we'll work out what the damage might be if you hit him.
Yeah. So I should have something like a hand axe, which doesn't have any extras on, so I'll just roll a hand axe.
Yeah, that's fun.
Roll for that.
And we'll just redo the damage. I'll see. I presume a cart running into you.
Oh no, that probably doesn't work because that's a very. Oh. Here we go. I think. Oh. Okay.
Okay.
Something's a bit wonky here, but I think it's doing it now.
Yeah, there we go. Okay.
Almost 15.
So you have not managed to hit him. So what I'm going to do is basically move you to there. So sort of like as you're sort of driving forward with the cart, trying to hit him, he's basically sort of like just moved his horse out of the way to like veered to the side, and you're sort of like wheeling the cart round basically.
Yeah. So,
Okay.
being that that's what I'm doing for movement, can I shoot him as well?
I will say you can have a go at shooting him. However, you are going to have a -2 penalty because obviously you're trying to drive a cart as well.
Yeah. No, this is a drive-by. This is how we roll. Okay, so we're gonna. Where's the sheet gone now? Here we go. Okay, so we're talking flintlock. Situational modifier -2. 2, you said? Yep, so here goes. Same guy. I think I think that's a tag.
Yes, that's a very palpable hit. Okay, so would you like to describe how you hit said torch-wielding guy who obviously drops his torch and is now, well, drops himself, basically? Would you like to describe how you finish him off?
Yeah, I think it's a case of because he put in some fancy driving work here where he sort of basically sidestep with his horse in the nick of time, and I'm just wheeling around with the cart, like pulling on the horses with one hand and just grabbing the because I think he's gonna shoot me right away when I pass him in the back, so I'm just turning around immediately and shooting basically over my shoulder at him, and he, well, because it hit him, not the horse, so probably catches it in the throat and spins off the horse. Not having a great day.
Excellent. Okay, and as he sort of hits the ground, also this guy here who is sort of lying dead on the ground and has been for a while, the torch that he was holding, which has been like lying on the ground, finally goes out, leaving just like a single sort of pool of light, which you can basically see appears to be coming from the woman. She appears to have, when she was like gathering her herbs, she's like set down a small lantern on the ground next to her, and obviously these guys had a couple of people on horses with like torches. They've both been killed, so the only light now is from this small lantern. Okay, so has everyone gone? Everyone done their turns? Okay.
Yep.
Lovely. So we're going to go on to the bad guys. These two guys here. One of them is basically going to turn and face Brock. The other is going to like grab the woman and start making a move to like drag her away, basically. So they're going to sort of move to here. I'm going to make a quick roll to see whether like her lantern gets knocked over in the struggle. Yes, it does. So our lantern gets knocked over. There is a smash, and the lantern breaks and goes out. Now, hopefully you guys can still see a bit.
I can see myself and some of the map. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's absolutely grand. So, in the darkness, we're going to make our... I'm going to make my attack rolls. So, the brigand attacking Lan. Let me just remove that. And they're going to be at -4 because of the darkness. Is a 13 enough to hit Lan?
She's 15.
Okay, so this guy swings at her. Can't really see her in the dark. They're no better at seeing in the dark than you guys are. Obviously misses. Okay, so I'm going to have the other brigand who's drawing a pistol is going to shoot at roughly where he thinks Wymar is. Again, he's going to be on a fat -4 penalty. So let me just make his roll, so it'll be -4 from this. Yep, gets nowhere near you guys. However, very briefly, there is a flash of light here. It's like the gun, like... So have a quick look at that, and when I finish talking in a few seconds, I'm going to turn that light off because the flash has now faded. Okay, so the brigand who was dealing with Brock is going to try his attack again with the penalty. Psh, nowhere near with his -3 attack roll. Okay, so that's them done, so we're back onto initiative again. It's a mighty 1 for me again.
Go on, Wymar.
Yeah, it's your turn.
Oh.
Taking turns.
Well, historically, this has not gone well.
The odds are in your favour.
And in fact, because I completely forgot that we said the cart had a lantern on it, so what I'm going to say is that basically Wymar, as like a free action, has just sort of like relit the lantern on the cart because that should have been on anyway, and it's only really hampered me. So we'll say it went in his full gallop. The lantern went out because it was getting jingled around, and Wymar's just like relit it. But yeah, you get to have your go as normal, you guys. So anyone within the range of that light is not at a penalty. If you're outside it, you're on a -4 penalty for any attacks.
Yeah.
I'm going to shoot this guy with my crossbow.
Okay, you won't be at a penalty because you're shooting into the light. So make your attack roll. Okay, so Wymar and Brock, as you're sort of like preparing yourselves from out of the darkness in this direction, there's a and a crossbow bolt hits this guy down here who's like dragging the woman away. He screams and falls to the ground, a crossbow bolt sticking out of his throat, and you see the woman sort of like starts to run sort of across here, heading in this sort of direction. Well, she won't actually get to do a full move until the NPCs go, obviously.
Nice.
Okay, who's next?
Did you want to go Wymar in case it affects the light situation, etc.?
Yeah. So, if I can, like, we don't really have detailed rules for how carts handle on the road, but
yeah, just feel free to move as you would do normally.
yeah. So, is this guy like, what's his situation? He shot his pistol?
Yeah, he shot his pistol and he's literally just like dropped it. He's not even like trying to reload it. He's dropped his pistol. You can see that he's sort of like he's pulling up a sword and shield, which were like strapped to his saddlebag. He's like lifting them up. Obviously, like he's discharged his pistol. He's not got another one, so he was just planning on charging in, like, or flailing around in the dark. 'Cause he didn't really know where you were. You've lit the light, and now he's looked up and he's like, as he like sees you galloping towards him.
I'm driving by, and out comes the sun sword, and I would like to take a swipe at him as we go.
Okay.
This guy's not undead, so we're gonna roll au natural. It's not looking great for him.
Indeed, it's not. However, your sword is now illuminating the scene. As like literally like the light of day is like pouring out. As you all hear like the choral like as he draws the sword, swings it at this guy's like, what the fuck? And then like his head is neatly severed from his shoulders. There's a brief sort of sizzling hiss as this red hot flaming sword passes through his neck, and he does that sort of cinematic thing where like his head like remains where it is on his shoulders, and he's like, then you see the little line spread across his neck, and the head goes and falls down next to him. And in case you hadn't guessed, he's dead.
It's the fact it's cauterized don't really help him, does it?
No, not really.
Helps with the bleeding, not so much with the severed spine.
Yeah. Okay. So we've got anyone left to go?
It's just Brock and Lan.
Okay.
Well,
obviously the scene, whilst Wymar has got the sword out, the scene is illuminated.
Yeah, Brock will briefly look over and he'll be pleased to see the woman seems to be free at the moment, so he'll continue to attack the one in front of him. Not very well. And then Lan will also attack the one on. That looks a bit better.
Indeed it is. So Lan actually steps forward, stabs, because she's been like flailing around at this guy and not able to get at him. She actually stabs the horse. The horse topples over to one side, like landing on the leg of the guy. And whilst he's struggling to free himself, Lan steps over with a sword and finishes him off.
Nice. And she will come running over to aid Brock next round.
Leave one alive.
Oh, that might be challenging.
Okay, so we're on to the NPCs, so, such as they are. So I'll do this guy attacking Brock. He's got no modifier now. Doesn't hit anyway. Okay. So, back to initiative then. Unless anyone else has got to go. Okay. So
I'm all done.
I'll roll my initiative. It's a 5 for me.
It's back to me, innit? I'll roll.
What's up, man?
Okay.
21.
So yeah, that brigand swings at you again. Doesn't manage to hit. Okay. However, there is a loud crack of a black powder weapon being discharged from in this tree here, which has been aimed at Brock. Like the guy's been aiming for like a couple of turns. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll a d8. On a 1 to 4, it's successfully hit Brock. 5 to 6, it's Lan. 7 to 8, it's the other brigand. Okay, so it's hit Brock. So let me just bring up his black powder weapon stats for his musket. So it's D10 damage. Okay, you take 9 hit points of damage, Brooke. As you suddenly feel this sharp pain as you're almost knocked off your feet. You're not, because you're massive, let's face it. And you've taken worse than this in your time. But, like, your shoulder is, like, shredded as these pellets from these bullets from, like, a musket. It's, like, whacking to your shoulder. And you feel the brief hot spray of, like, your own blood as it's, like, over the side of your face.
Yeah. Not amused.
And I'll make this guy visible now, because you sort of roughly know where he is. Okay, that's it for the NPCs. Over to you guys.
I will definitely shoot the brigand in the tree with the crossbow.
Yeah.
Do you want to go first? Yeah.
I've just to let you know, I've just moved the woman a bit because I forgot. She's just sort of like running towards the path, basically.
It's double damage, so it's 6.
Okay, who are you aiming at?
The man in the tree.
Okay, yep. So this guy's got off his one shot, but he's revealed his position. Quentin sort of steps forward a bit into the light, aims his crossbow rapidly, fires it. Again, there is another scream and the sound of a body falling out of the tree. Only one brigand remains.
Yeah, I'm going to raise my sword up, ready to sort of cleave into him and offer him some sort of surrender.
Okay, I'm actually
drop your weapon and you'll survive.
I was going to say I'm going to make a morale roll for him, which I should have made anyway. But okay, so you raise your sword up and you like drop your weapon and you'll survive. And he like drops his shield and his sword, sort of like falls to his knees with his hands up, and he's like, Okay. I surrender. And he's like holding his hands up. His weapons are like on the fucking floor. We're effectively out of combat rounds.
Okay. Well, I'm
I'm gonna go and get my silver dagger.
Yeah, that's not a problem. You can recover like your spear and your dagger and whatnot. That's not an issue.
Yep. I'm going to secure him. So tie up his hands and feet for now.
Yeah, not a problem. Like I say, he's got no weapons to like pose any real danger to you, so you tie him up.
Yep.
Just gonna disappear.
And what's the woman? Is she trying to run off, or is she?
She looked as though she was just trying to get to the path, because obviously it's like the most sort of stable ground, whereas now she's sort of like, she basically got to here and she was obviously planning on like running away in this direction, but she's got to here, she's obviously seen that, she's heard this guy saying he like surrenders, and she's sort of like slowed down to, she's not turned around and come back, but she's like slowed down a bit to like a jog, whereas previously she was just running trying to get away, whereas she's sort of slowly like slowing down now, slows down to a sort of like fast walk, and she's sort of like looking over her shoulder.
Yeah. I'll call out to her then. I say, I suggest you stay with us. Night's drawing in. It's not safe, obviously.
She's like, no, thank you. Who are you?
We are travelling back to our town, New Zealand.
She says, well, yes, in that case, I certainly will travel back with you. I mean, after I'd finished collecting the sea holly there, that's where I was planning on heading. And she's all like pats the satchel. She says, sea holly, and she like gestures to a patch of this sort of vegetation that's like growing down here. And she says, yes, sea holly, I have the great honour to be apprenticed to the head apothecarian of New Zealand, and I was sent out to collect sea holly. It grows best in these rocky places on the coast, and it's in great demand amongst the well-to-do as a. And then she looks a little bit uncomfortable, as a revitalising tonic.
And you had to come get it at night.
Well, yes. So you see, the thing is, these my master is very protective about the the places where these plants grow. I mean, obviously anyone could either trample them or come and get them for themselves.
Trade secrets.
Yeah, yes,
no more.
quite. I didn't think anyone knew of this. I knew I was here. And, when I started gathering the sea holly, and it's a little bit of a labour-intensive process. You have to cut it just right, you'll damage it, and the roots of the plant, etc. And I was so engrossed in it, I didn't hear when these footpads, these vagabonds, snuck up on me, and then before I knew it, I was surrounded by horses. One of them fired a pistol, and then the next thing I know, you were here. I'm afraid I can't tell you any more about them than you probably already know. They just appeared out of the trees, and the next thing I knew, they were trying to grab hold of me. I was trying to break free and run away, and the rest you know.
Yeah, I mean, we've never met anyone who meets this sort of description before, have we? These are just chances.
Yeah, basically, it looks like it. Yeah.
No sort of telltale sort of insignias or anything like we've seen with the pirates or anything like that.
Not
tattoos or.
Obviously, as you're talking to this woman, she says, "Oh, forgive me, sorry, I love the shocker. I'm Harriet Cresswell, apprentice apothecary."
I'm glad we were able to help you in your time of need.
Not as glad as I am, she says.
Let's get down to business and find out what this guy's about.
Yeah, you still got the guy.
Yeah. So, what gives you the right to set upon a young lady of the?
He says,
forest.
Look, he's got like his hands like tied behind his head, and he's all trussed up, and he's like, look, it weren't nothing personal. We was paid to do it.
Paid?
Yeah, that's right.
To attack someone? Who would pay you to do
not
such
just
a thing?
someone. Specifically, we were given a description and everything.
By who?
He says, it was one of those. And he sort of raises his eyebrows. One of those, from the Wymar Mountains.
Yeah, you'll have to be more descriptive.
One of the changelings.
He says no. He says no. It was one of the dragon men, right and true. Saw it with my own eyes. He says I was in one of the I was in Virago town on a hag shore, and approached me and the rest of the lads. He did give us a description of the woman, told us that didn't know exactly when, but she'd be coming to this place. We were supposed to lurk around in the trees for a few days. If she turned up, grab her, take her back to Virago town, and we'd be rewarded handsomely. Gave us like a fair bit of gold, and he sort of like gestures with his head towards like one of the saddlebags that's like full on the ground near one of the guys that your spear took off his horse. And he's like, yeah, paid us a lot in advance, told us there'd be even more if we got this woman back to him. Like I say, nothing personal, we don't even know who she is. We were just told, oh, she's some like herbalist, and we were given a description and told she'd be here.
I'm going to load my crossbow, John.
You see, he sort of winces and tries to like sort of shy away from it, but he obviously can't really move.
Where's this?
Personal, is it?
Yeah, where's this Virago town? Is it?
It says Virago town. He says, well, it's in Hagshore. It's about a day's ride to the west of Deersun. He says, yeah, you must know it. The sisters run it.
No, we're new to this area, so.
Are you this Crimson Coin everybody hearing about?
This what? He says no.
I'll shoot him, blood.
He's like, you what? This up. And his head slumps forward. He stays upright because I would like you've tied him, but he's just like.
That's nothing personal.
Is he a goner, is he?
Unless something's done to save him. But I mean, we like he's effectively on
I didn't
0
know if-
hit points, so we're talking like
Yeah, I didn't know where
healing potions.
where
and
Quentin
stuff.
was shooting him. I didn't know if he just sort of shot him to.
I assume
for
you shot
effect
to
or
kill. I assume
kill
you
him.
shot to kill Quentin. Obviously, if you
Storlook.
see, did you shoot to like kill immediately, or like he's going to die, but he's gonna...
Just nice, slow, painful death.
Okay, so his head's slumped forward. You can hear he's like groaning slightly, so he is still alive. But you've seen sort of wounds like this before, Brock, like from when people have been injured by like razor bears and stuff like that, and they've had their stomach torn open. You know that like without some like serious like heavy duty like healing, he's a goner, but it's going to take him ages to die, and it's going to be well painful. But he's like.
Yeah, I mean, I obviously don't like the guy, but yeah, I'm not going to put him through that. So I'm just going to run him through. Since Quentin's made his decision on him,
Yeah, I'm going back to my horse.
Yep, no problems.
so I'll sort of put him out of his misery.
No worries. You
This
with
is
a,
no
with a
more
clean
use.
stroke, you put him out of his misery. The woman Harriet Creswell, who's now sort of like wandered back over a bit, and she's like, now she can see that like all these brigands have been finished off. She sort of wanders over and she's like, "Oh well, again, my thanks. I'm sure my master will be most grateful for your help in this situation."
Would you know why they would be after you personally? They seem to know you by description.
I honestly can't think why. I mean, I'm just an apprentice apothecary. I don't have any. Well, beyond my knowledge of herbs, I don't have anything that would be valuable to anybody.
What about your master, as it were, or your
She says,
teacher?
Well, yes, I can understand if they were going to attempt to steal away my master. I mean, after all, my master's the head apothecary of New Zealand, so her knowledge far outpaces my own.
And she's quite well known in this area.
Oh yes, of course. I mean, especially since that business with the changeling, it was she who first invented the unguent, the salve, the sight of truth that is scattered on people as they enter New Zealand.
Okay.
Round up the horses, get the gold, sell the horses, more gold. Find this crimson coin.
Okay.
Then find out what's going on with this other kidnapping.
So we'll deal with the horses later, but as you check through the saddlebags of the various people you felled, you do indeed find out they appear to have been extremely well paid, and between all of them you find 6,000 gold pieces.
Wow.
Which is an amazing payment by anyone's stretch of the means, never mind like brigands effectively.
What's the coinage here? Who's paying these guys?
Okay, you see the coins here. They appear to have a sort of 3-clawed like mark on one side, and they have like a very simple like dragon's head on the other side.
Have we seen them coins when we went to New Zealand?
No, the
Previously?
ones in New Zealand had a crown on one side and a seal on the other.
Yeah. And the two sisters owned this. Well, not owned, but seemed to run this town on the coast by 𝐵𝐮𝐧𝐿, west of 𝐵𝐮𝐧𝐿.
As you're talking about that, Harriet says, "Well, yes, surely you must have heard of the sisterhood. They're a strange sort of religion. They settled on on the southern coast, just to the west of here, Hagshaw as it's now known. They appear to have some sort of non-aggression agreement with Wormspire Mountains. They seem to be like not attacked by them at all. The creatures, and she wrinkles her nose up in a bit of disgust, from Wormspire seem to come and go freely and not cause any trouble there. But whatever witch spawned bargain they made with the Lord of Wormspire, I shudder to think.
And this sisterhood or whatever, where did they come from? Did you say?
She says, "Well, from what I hear, and this is only rumour, mind you. I heard that their leader was once an old wise woman who lived in a small cave near to 𝐃𝐚𝐭𝐞, and during the nights of colourless fire, when chaos reigned and magic ran wild in the streets, she emerged from the caves, and she used her own sorceries to combat the worst of the effects in the small area around 𝐃𝐚𝐭𝐞. In gratitude to that, she effectively became the de facto ruler of that small area, and I gather she took a number of young women as her apprentices, her lesser priestesses, whatever you want to call them, to start this religion. And between them, they built Virago Town, just to the west of 𝐃𝐚𝐭𝐞. And I believe that's where she still is to this day, as far as I'm aware. But like I say, that's just rumour.
Have you seen this woman? Has she got quite an old sort of hag-like appearance?
Yes, well, from what I've heard, I've not seen her directly, but from the descriptions I've heard, bear in mind these may be exaggerated. Yes, she had a distinctly crone-like appearance. Like slightly, from what I've heard, she has slightly greenish skin.
Jenny.
Yes, that's the name I heard.
Wonder how good her memory is. Oh well.
Oh, she can always be thankful.
Well, is there anything else we need to try and ascertain?
I don't think so.
I mean, we're going to make camp anyway, ain't we? Because we're still a couple of hours away, are we? From yeah.
I think we should just pile the bodies up somewhere and then I'll just kick them over the cliff.
Yeah, that's a fairly simple way of disposing of them. Not a problem, you can do that.
Sea burial.
You all settle down for the evening. You make camp. You all get a good night's rest. Any of you who are down hit points can regain 1d3 hit points. Okay.
Okay, well, we'll make the short journey back then, I guess.
Indeed. So, next morning.
Did Harriet collect the rest of the herbs, or had she already finished sort of collecting them?
She seemed to have already sort of finished with that.
Yeah.
So the next morning you set off, and very early on you see the gates of New Zealand up ahead of you. You can see the sort of priest stood outside the gate, scattering the waters, the visions of truth over people. There's the normal guards sort of stood at the gate. One of them sees you. Obviously Harriet's travelled with you, and he sort of like hails her as she approaches. Obviously knows her. See, she looks a bit shook up, and he's like, are you all right? Are you all right, miss? And she's like, oh yes, thanks to these brave souls. A group of footpads set upon me while I was out gathering herbs. If it hadn't been for these fellows, I don't know what would have happened. The guard sort of like looks over at you all, like gives you an approving nod, and he's like, oh well, thank you for Thank you for seeing Miss Cresswell safely returned. I'm sure her master will be most glad of it. And he just sort of like waves you on, like to go through, since you've got her with you. Obviously, you get a bit of water splashed on you as you go through. Obviously, none of you are changelings, so it doesn't do anything to you, other than like it slightly smells of garlic.
We'll lap that up. Yep.
Rock's aftershave.
Yep. I mean, every few days to top up.
Yeah, it's Garlic City anyway, so.
Should we go and see if we can get an audience with the apothecary, since we've got a sort of contact?
I was thinking breakfast, but yeah.
I think we had that before we left, didn't we?
No, that was more dried out.
Oh, I see.
What about second breakfast?
Oh, bloody hell, we're on the Hobbit thing again, aren't we?
But in all seriousness, I don't think I have a lot of good ideas concerning how we should proceed here necessarily. So,
Well, but let's go and just find somewhere to chat for a second about Jenny, and then
Yeah. Okay. We'll leave her to go her way back to the apothecary.
we'll tell her we'll pop round later.
Yeah, not a problem. She tells you that you'll be able to find her at the East Tower, and then she sort of heads off in this direction around the sort of outside of it. You've been down this main street, you know it leads to this East Tower, sort of here-ish. And yeah, you again, she thanks you. You guys are left on your own to discuss whatever you see fit, so go ahead.
So, Jenny could be a problem.
I can't actually remember what was our promise to her.
We promised to get them somebody to train as an apprentice by the spring.
Oh yeah, I mean, I knew we'd sort of missed the deadline and that, obviously, but it sounds like she's got potentially a village full of apprentices. I don't know.
What she has is a cult and a potential vendetta against Malcolm.
Yeah, whether she still holds that is.
Well, like I said, she could always be thankful we did technically make her a god.
Yeah, if you could convince her, yeah, potentially. But I mean, that was 10 years or more. So whether she still remembers that or even worried about it, I'm not sure. It's whether we need to go and investigate what's going on there, because I wouldn't have thought if she's in sort of allegiance with the Dragon Lord or Fire Lord, then she's probably not going to be an ally of ours.
No, but then that just doubles the risk on Malcolm, doesn't it? Because now there'd be essentially two places looking for him.
Yeah, I don't know if we need to visit there at this stage, but it's definitely something to bear in mind, that it's there as a potential threat in the future.
Well, it's definitely a threat, because they're trying to kidnap people from our fucking town.
Yeah. Well, it was actually the lizard or the dragon folk that actually were paying for it, but then asking them to take them to that town. So it's a sort of combination, wasn't it? Yeah.
Sort of bartered through, yeah.
Yeah.
Wymar?
Sorry?
Thoughts?
I mean, they're going to try it again, I should imagine, if they failed. So she's definitely got to be a lot more cautious in the future. Not going to be wandering about. Yeah, she ain't going to be wandering about picking bloody herbs in the future, I should imagine.
I mean, the obvious thing is to use her as either bait or barter for the one they actually want, which would be the apothecary.
Yeah, I can't believe they want her specifically. I wouldn't have thought.
So convince the apothecary to act as bait?
I think there's definitely potential there. If you steal the apprentice, then the master's most likely going to want them back. I assume not everybody just, says, "It's all right, I'll get another one."
Yeah, but they wouldn't be doing it for money, would they? It would be for, I don't know, some sort of meet-up or something where they could, get to the apocryphy in some sort of trick or trap, I should imagine. Maybe we can speak to them at a later stage and get their opinion, see what they think, see if they know any more.
So, you said later. What are we going to do right now?
Well, I mean, we're obviously just recovering from our expedition journey, etc. I didn't know what you were doing with your sealed letter of.
Oh, I need to sort out the mayor.
Yeah, so I didn't know if you wanted to look into that first, or speak to the apocryphy, or if we want to look into the Crimson.
Well, why don't we do this then? You two go and deal with the mayor. I'll go and start looking around this crimson coin.
Okay.
When I find them, I'll come let you know.
Okay, so should we sort of meet up at sort of dinner time or something at the tavern, or?
Let's go from the tavern mid-afternoon.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, 'cause
Okay.
we haven't speak to the mayor yet, have we?
So, team speak to the mayor. What is your plan for locating the mayor?
We'll stop someone on the street and ask,
Yeah,
"Pray tell, wherefore doth the mayor make his abode?"
that is an absolutely sound plan. Okay, so you are told, you ask around a few different people, you're told that the mayor's home is located in the prosperous east side district of New Zealand. And if you have a look on your map, you can see that the east side district is this block here. And since you're you're on the borders of that anyway, this is these grey buildings, you can see that as you sort of look down the street in that direction, the houses are obviously of a slightly more sturdy and sort of not really opulent, because obviously it's still a small town, but definitely more money's been put into these buildings than if you look down the street across the bridge to the sort of the south side area. All the buildings are a bit more sort of ramshackle and sort of thrown together there, whereas these ones look like some sort of care and some serious GP has been invested in these buildings. Many a gold piece has been spent. But yeah, you're told the mayor's house is in the east side district, and I will very quickly, if I can, just quickly draw on a little hex for. See how quickly I can do this with the drawing tools. Let's have a nice purple hex. There we go. That's where the mayor's house is.
Let's go and see if we can get an appointment in.
Okay, so you guys head down there to the mayor's house. You wander through the streets, and as I've said, it's slightly more opulent here. It's also adjacent to this area where the the jewelers and like the chandlers and the people who provide the services to like the central temple district work. So there's like more sort of artisan crafters and such like around here. But as you move past that into the east side district, you start coming across all these slightly more lavish and sturdily built buildings. Most of the buildings you've seen elsewhere so they're quite sturdy, but they're built of wood, whereas you start seeing more stonework in these buildings as you sort of wander down. They look a good deal more sturdier, and you start seeing people around who aren't wearing the sort of tabards that would mark someone out as one of the New Zealand like town guards, but they're obviously like guards of a sort, perhaps like hired guards or bodyguards or something like that. You start seeing buildings with like where people can obviously afford to like hire their own people to like administer the security of their buildings. And unsurprisingly, as you wander up towards what you've been reliably told by people asking for directions is the home of 𝐂𝐮𝐫𝐿, the mayor of New Zealand, you see that there are indeed some soldiers, for want of a better term, stood outside the door. They're not wearing like the livery of New Zealand, so perhaps sort of like hired contractors, but they're stood there with like spears. A couple of them have like pistols on their belts. They look like they're very well equipped, and you can both tell, because you've both got like mad combat experience, that these fellows have obviously like also seen their fair share of trouble by the way they're standing and they're sort of holding their weapons. They're obviously like ready to use them if necessary, and they've had practice at it. So what do you guys do as you're sort of like approaching? You see a handful of these guards. Wymar, can you roll me a d6? Okay, so there's two guards stood at the door. What do you guys do? How are you approaching?
Do you mind if I do the talking?
Well, it's your appointment. It's your office.
Yeah, well,
So probably appropriate.
before we set to claiming that, let's talk to the man.
Well, yeah.
Hello, citizens of New Zealand, I say, as we approach the guards.
One of the guards sort of like nudges the guy next to him, and he's like, he sort of looks at you like, nudges his mate, and he's like, get a load. I presume you're still like wearing like plate armor and stuff.
Yeah.
He like nudges this guy next to him, and he's like, get a load of this joker here. And then he's sort of like, in that sort of over exaggerated way, like he's talking to a child. He's like, hello, is there anything I can help you with?
We have come to have a discussion of high import with the mayor.
Again, like he's like almost like he sort of thinks you're like addled of wits, and like talking in this very slow, exaggerated motion. He's like, well, I'm afraid the mayor is extremely busy, so unless you have an appointment with him, or unless he's expecting you, I'm going to have to ask you to make an appointment and come back later. I'm sorry about that, but he's a very busy man.
I'll take out the documents.
Yeah, no problem. You
And,
pull out this scroll, and you see them sort of like reach for the weapons as though like, perhaps they're expected to be like a magic scroll or something like that. But when you just like show it, like, oh, it's got writing on it, like normal writing, not any weird arcane glyphs, they like relax a little bit. The guy's like,
And I'll hold it up to them and it's like, here you go, this is the invitation.
he scans over it, and you see like his eyes like widen and his eyebrows raise as he like reads the text on it, proclaiming you to be the protector, the Castellan of the towers of New Zealand, and it's signed by Mercy Dixon, obviously. He sort of raises his eyebrows and he's like,
Yeah, don't let the metal fool you. It's an affectation.
I should, as he's reading, I should comment. Oh, you can read then.
he sort of bristles a bit at that, and he's like, of course I can read.
Right.
And then he sort of like, he like raises his eyebrows, obviously looks at you, and you're dressed like you're dressed, And he's like, how about you?
Oh, he's talking to me now.
Yeah, but basically you've come in and you're like, oh, you can read, can you? And he's like, yeah, I can read. Like puffing his chest out, but he's like, what about you? As you're like there in your furs and whatever.
Well, I'm accompanying Wymar here. So his business is our business.
He sort of like just like blanks you, turns towards Wymar, and he's like, sorry, forgive my previous impertinence, sir. Of course, we'll have to get the paperwork verified. But if you could keep your manservant here under control, this is a civilized town.
He'll do well to keep him under control if he keeps mouthing off.
I know. I was here chopping the very first logs for it.
He's sort of like,
Let's get on.
He looks a little bit confused, and he's like, well, obviously this appears for all intents and purposes to be signed by the current Castellan, Mercy Dixon, but as you can appreciate with everything going on recently, there's a lot of people about who've been claiming to be what they're not, so we're going to have to send a rider out to 𝐉𝐮𝐧𝐞 to like confirm this. Might take a couple of days.
Wonderful.
Sorry, go ahead, sir. Go ahead.
That will give us 2 whole days to have meetings with the mayor.
He says, well, no, we're going to have to verify this before we can let you in to see the mayor. I mean, you could be anybody. I mean, don't get me wrong, you've got in through the gates, so you're obviously not one of them changing things. But
yeah, I was about to pop some garlic in my mouth, but I suppose there's no need for that.
He says, I tell you what, sir, just to show there's no hard feelings about the misunderstanding. If you're willing to wait here for a few moments, sir, I'll go and speak to the mayor now, see if he's free. I'll explain what's happened, and we'll see where we can go from there. I can't guarantee anything.
Yeah,
but that's the best I can do, sir. And he disappears inside. Roll me a d6 Wymar, anything but a 1 or a 2, and the mayor will be able to like squeeze you in for like a little sort of meet and greet.
Nah, not for me. Never.
Okay.
Hates my guts.
So he comes back out, and the soldier's like, "Oh, I'm very sorry, sir. The mayor's currently in trade talks with some of the merchants who pass through the town. Like I say, by the time that's settled down, we should have time to verify your paperwork, sir. I'll send a rider out to 𝐉𝐮𝐧𝐞 straight away. If you could come back in a couple of days, sir, by then we should have assuming nothing unfortunate happens, the rider should have returned. We can verify the paperwork. The mayor said as long as the paperwork's fine, he's quite willing to have a meeting with you in a couple of days at your convenience. So I hope that's okay, sir. Sorry, I can't do more."
I'll see you in 2 days.
He nods.
Jokers.
Okay.
Yeah. We exit stage left.
Indeed. So at this point, we're going to cut across to Team 𝐃𝐚𝐿, aka Quentin. Okay, so Quentin, you're planning on heading into the town. You're trying to track down this 𝐃𝐚𝐿, either an individual or an organisation. You're not sure. You've just got the name, and apparently they're like a rising sort of threat in the underworld, such as it is in this town. So what are your plans? How do you plan to go about this?
I plan to start in the south side, dock side.
Okay, so I'll move the party token down there for the moment, since we're dealing with you. So you cross over the bridge, you head through past where a number of mercers, textile dealers and carpenters work just over the bridge. You head through the dockside area, which is a residential district, but also there's sort of the slightly more day-to-day trade, fishermen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then as you get into south side, it starts moving into more sort of residential buildings. But these aren't the sort of glorious stone buildings of east side. These are very rough and ready wooden buildings. A lot of them look like they've been repurposed from the debris of old buildings, presumably ones that collapsed during the nights of colourless fire. And
Yeah, so, but the idea is I'm starting somewhere I know I'd go to score some quick money. So around the traders' dockside area, because it's busy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look out for people weighing up potential thefts rather than actual thefts. I'm not worried about them. They're going to be gone before I even get there.
Okay, so you're just sort of like looking for someone who might be scoping out someone as a mark, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Let me just have a quick look at your character sheet. We'll get you to make some sort of roll on this. I'm not sure what yet, but let me just have a quick look at your character sheet. I would say, given that you're a thief and you've got these sort of abilities, let's see. I would say, basically, make me a pickpockets roll, and if you succeed, you spotted somebody. You have succeeded.
Success.
So you're like looking around, and obviously you're trying to be discreet yourself, but you're sort of trying to like you know, you need a thief to catch a thief sort of thing.
Yeah.
As you're wandering around, you see a number of potential things, but nothing comes of it. And then as you're sort of wandering down the street here between Dockside and Southside, you get up to the sort of far end here where there's like a lot of fishmongers, etc. And you can see there's a number of fishmongers outside. They've got like their wares sort of like laid out, etc. They're sort of like dealing between themselves. There's like people from Southside like buying their fish and whatever. You can see obviously like money's changing hands, like coins are being weighed to make sure they're not counterfeit, stuff like that. And as you're sort of like looking around, you're blending in. You're not doing anything to draw attention to yourself. And as you're sort of looking around on the corner of the street, you notice what appears to be like a young lad. He's like in his mid-teens, and he's just sort of like lurking around. And you spot like it appears to be like he's paying close attention without looking like he's paying close attention to the average person, to like where these coins are being weighed out and like who's passing the money about. Like most people haven't noticed, but you know the game. So you sort of like spot him. You suspect he's probably not the person who's going to commit the actual robbery. He's just like the person who like picks the targets. And you can see he's like obviously like keeping an eye out for like, in case anyone's like just made a big transaction and then wandered away to like go about the rest of their business. And as you continue watching, you see a merchant, you presume. He buys like a bulk load of like fish from like a fat like pouch of coinage which he puts back on his belt. He's got a couple of like guys with him, or obviously like manservants. They pick up this big crate of fish and they start like walking back, heading down this sort of like small street between like the fishmongers and like the old clothes sort of sellers. As they start heading down this street, you see the young lad sort of sat there, and he walks off, and he's just like whistling like in the opposite direction, and he's like whistling a tune, on like a very sort of like discordant tune under his breath. And as he does so, and he disappears from sight down the street, you see like two guys like peel out of side alleyways and start following this small train of three people down this side street.
Oh, so the one that's been whistling.
Yep.
I'll have him because I'm not worried about them pinching from her.
Yeah, no problems. You head back to where this young lad has just gone round the corner, sort of here-ish. You follow him. You follow around the corner. He's not really spotted you. You can see he appears to be making his way along the sort of like the outer wall in this direction.
Yeah.
And yeah, make me one of your sort of like moving shadows rolls, just to see if you manage to remain hidden, because obviously he knows he's up to no good. Okay. So you start following after this this young lad, and as you're following him, you suddenly notice that as he walks past it's just like a barrel of like water like outside a building. You see him look down at the barrel, and he like catches sight of like your reflection like following him, and he suddenly like takes off at a run down the street, so like knocks these two barrels over. Water spills over the streets, and as the spray goes up into the air, you see he's like running down the street away from you.
How tall are the buildings?
They're mostly sort of single floor buildings, not massively tall.
Oh, I'll go up then.
Okay. Now
I'll run along the rooftops to get in.
Now, if only I had some sort of a chase map prepared. Oh, there we go. Okay, obviously I've used the generic brigand picture for the dude, but like I say, it's this young lad. Okay.
Well, he is a brigand, so...
Well, yeah, pretty much. Okay, so you're following after him. Now, what this is going to come down to is we're both going to make constitution rolls, because it's more about can you sustain the pace and keep running. If you can, each time you get a constitution success per round, you get a tick. If you get 3 ticks before he does, you've caught him. However, I'm going to give you a -2 bonus, because obviously you're trying to roll below your constitution score, because you're using the rooftop, so you can move a bit more rapidly. There's no detritus or street debris in the way.
Yeah.
So for the first round, make your con roll. I'm going to roll for the lad who doesn't succeed.
-2.
Okay, so you've got your first tick. So obviously this guy's like, this young lad is like running hell for leather down the street. You can see him looking around, but he doesn't seem to have spotted you up on the rooftops. So you're actually starting to like really catch up on him, because he's having to like duck round people and dive over like carts and stuff like that, whereas you're just like straight running across the roofs, occasionally leaping over a little gap. That's no problem for someone of your skill level. So on to the next round. Again, it's just a straight contest. Okay, the young lad has passed his this round, so he gets a tick. Okay, so he started to quicken his pace. He's fairly young, he's quite athletic, so he's jumping over like carts. He's just like pushing people out of the way. He's still looking behind him. You see him glance upwards. He's now seen you're on the roof, but like, what's he going to do about it? Like, you're up there, he's down here, he doesn't seem to have any weapons on him. He's trying to like duck into alleyways and sort of like give you the slip, but because of your success, you're keeping up with him. You've nearly drawn level with him. So again, next round, contest again. He's not succeeded. Okay, neither of you. So you're maintaining your sort of level, like you've not managed to gain on him. So we'll go straight on to the next round. He's not succeeded. He's not doing very well, bless him. Okay. So as he basically ducks down an alleyway again, trying to give you the slip, and as he's sort of running down this alleyway, there's like 2 buildings with like a very narrow gap, and you've managed to get ahead of him. So as he starts going down the alleyway, you're already stood on the top of one of the buildings that sort of like drops down into this alleyway. What do you want to do?
Yeah, I'll drop down in front of him.
Yeah, absolutely no problem at all. Obviously you've got a bit of license because you've caught him in the chase. I don't know why I've brought that map up. So yeah, you drop down into the alleyway in front of this young lad. He tries to come to a screeching halt, accidentally sort of catches his feet in some of the crates and stuff at the side of the alleyway. In his panic, slides forward like skidding onto the floor, and basically like lands in a heap at your feet as you're sort of stood in the alleyway. So like the shadows falling over you. So as he's sort of like trying to scramble backwards, like pushing with his hands, trying to scramble back to his feet, what do you want to do?
I will just pull up my silver dagger.
Okay.
You don't want to do that, kid.
He sort of like, he looks up and he's like, I didn't do anything, mister. I didn't do anything.
It's debatable, isn't it?
He looks up and he says, what do you want?
I want either your life or
He goes pale when you
your
say
boss.
that. It's like, oh, my boss, I don't know what you mean, sir. He's obviously lying.
Kids today. Which one's it to be, kid? Life or boss? There's no third question here.
He's like, look, I can't take you to the Duke. Like, no one knows who the Duke is. Like, no one's seen him.
The Duke, right.
He's
Where'd
like,
you meet? Where'd you get your jobs from?
He's like, oh, I get him from his second Perkins, Martha Perkins, and he's like stumbling over his words. He's obviously like bricking himself.
Martha Perkins.
Yeah, that's right. She hands the orders down. She's the only one who like knows who the Duke is and like speaks to him directly.
Okay. Did you know that you're stealing in my town?
He's like, I don't even know who you are.
It's a statue of me in the centre of the fucking town.
He looks at you and he's like raises an eyebrow. He's like, is there?
Yeah.
He's like, what's your name? What's your name then?
What was the god called?
I believe yours was. Let me just have a look. Bum bum bum. Yours was the sort of. It wasn't the shining one. I believe it was the. I think it was the flayed god was yours. I might be wrong.
Oh yeah. It's the flayed god.
He sort of like raises it again. He's like he looks genuinely confused, and he's like, "No, that's not a statue of you. That's a statue of a god, isn't it? That's the flayed god. Like the name says it all."
You've seen the face.
He's like, "No, I can't say how great it looked. I don't follow any of that." He's like, my parents raised me to like follow Leander. I don't mess with any of that.
So then, where can I find her? Or should we just sacrifice you?
So, whoa, there's no need for that. It's like, look, she operates out of an old warehouse in a south side. He's like, look, if you I'll take you there if you let me go.
Right.
Okay. So he walks you through the south side to...
Oh, kid, don't try anything funny.
Okay. Let me just change that text. There we go. I don't know why it's put space in between, but there we go. Leads you to what for all intents and purposes appears to be like an old abandoned warehouse. That's what it looks like from the outside. Leads you to that. It's like there it is. This is the place. And like I say, this place is like either it's a derelict warehouse or someone's gone to a lot of effort to make it look like a derelict warehouse.
I'm stood behind him, yeah?
Yeah.
I was going to cosh him around the back of the head and drag him into an alleyway.
Yeah, you just like, he goes down, you haul him into an alleyway, not a problem. I'm going to ask you to make me a D12 roll. If you get anything but a 1, you're fine. Yeah, you drag him into an alleyway, you're unseen by anybody. Happy days. and you stood facing this abandoned warehouse.
I'm now going to investigate the outside of the warehouse.
Okay, it appears to be a sort of squarish, like wooden building. There's no real windows, so to speak. It's a one-story building. The door's like hanging off its hinges. There's damage to the wood on the outside. There's like chipped peeling paint work. So peering through the gaps in the door, you can see inside. There's like cobwebs everywhere. There's old crates and sort of like rubble and rubbish lying on the floor.
Any spotters or anything around?
You have a quick look around. Roll me d6.
Five.
Okay, you have a look around. You don't see any spotters.
Okay.
What do you want to do?
I will. Now go back and get the guys.
Okay, not a problem. So where did you guys arrange to meet up? Remind me.
The tavern.
Okay, not a problem. So you head to the tavern, and I'll move your thing there. So you head to the Hunter and Beetle. You all rendezvous there at the agreed time. You're all now present. You sort of sat around one of the tables inside. It's fairly empty at the moment because it's like mid-morning. Most people are working or whatever, so there's not like a big crowd in. Feel free to discuss what you wish, guys.
I found the job handler.
Yeah, do we know what we're dealing with yet?
I'm going to say it's going to be a medium to large size group. So let's be conservative and say plus 15.
Okay. I mean, we didn't have much luck with the two goons outside the mayor's house. Quite rude.
Yeah, the mayor's gonna want another document from Dixon.
The fact
So,
that it's 10 years old, maybe. Something to do with that.
So we've got a couple of days, essentially free time to, I suppose, round up these folks.
Well, round them up, take them over, whatever.
Okay. It sounds like we need to plan this out.
Yeah.
These two are very different outcomes.
I mean, I'm curious if this letter goes through and you take charge of the town, it might be a good thing as your first sort of appointment to deal with this issue. I'm wondering if it's worth waiting a day or two and just
We could
investigating.
scout it for a couple of days.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Just sort of scouting it out and
I mean, to be
getting
fair,
some more info.
if you guys want to like abstract it a little to like move along, we can easily just say, oh, you wait 2 days, we'll cut to the mayor's meeting, we'll have Quentin like make a roll or two for his scouting, I can give him some information, then we can like cut to you all like having a meeting with the mayor, and you can go and deal with this afterwards if that's what you want.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that's what we should do. I'm just putting it forward as it'd be quite a good sort of first action.
A feather in his cap.
Yeah, just to sort of seal the approval of the locals, maybe, and
Yeah.
if you think
Yeah.
it's,
Let's do it. Let's jump ahead.
and it'll give us a bit of time to, yeah, maybe scope it out a bit, see if we can work out a few numbers, and yeah, if there's anything that's going to be more of a problem than we first think.
Okay, so a couple of days passes. You head back to the mayor's building. The same guys on the door greet you, and I'm going to ask quickly, can you please, Quentin, make me either an intelligence or a wisdom check? It's up to you which one.
I don't know if it's on your end or mine, but that was completely garbled.
It's probably on my end. Basically, I was asking if Quentin can make an intelligence or a wisdom check. It's up to you which one you want to make. This is for your scouting. Okay, so obviously this organisation is like taking great pains not to be spotted. However, you do see at various points like a couple of people sort of enter and leave the building, so there is traffic going in and out of the building. You've not seen any women, so probably not this Martha Perkins that you've heard about, but you see people go into the building. As they get in there, you notice that when they head inside, so you're like keeping an eye on them, they go over to a very specific crate. They take the top off the crate, get inside, and then they seem to like disappear. And then like maybe like an hour or two later, like the top gets like slid off the crate from the inside, and they get out of it, put the lid back on, and go about the business.
So I can guess there's some form of ladder down.
It's a valid assumption. So that's what you found out during the couple of days, and then you all head to the meeting with the mayor. Like I say, you're met by the same guys outside. They say, oh yeah, they sent a rider to the fastest rider to the Worms Watch Tower, who's like spoke to Mercy Dixon, verified that the paperwork's legit. Come back, the mayor's ready to meet with you. You're shown inside to this like fairly sort of like I say luxurious sort of building, such as it is, and inside there is a very portly man with sort of fiery red hair. He has like big sideburns and a large like handlebar moustache that joins onto it. He's wearing a monocle and has a long pipe in his hands. He's got like a brown sort of leather jacket on, white starched shirt underneath with like the collar sticking up and like one of those little like black like neckties around it. He's sat behind a desk. There's like various official looking like paperwork. There's an ink and a quill. There's another guy sort of sat there who's like writing with a quill on like a piece of paper as he's like talking to them, maybe like his personal assistant or something similar. And he sort of looks up, sees you all, and then he puffing on his pipe. He gestures some empty chairs and he's like, "Oh, have a seat. I'll be with you in a moment." And then he turns back to the guy who's doing the writing, and he's like, "So, as I was saying, we're perfectly prepared to ratify the trade agreement if the aforementioned concessions can be agreed on, signed, and approved." At which point this guy finishes writing it down. He puts some of that sort of like powder on the ink, blows on it to dry it, passes it over to the mayor, who folds it up, melts some wax onto it, puts his signet ring presumably into the wax to give his seal, passes it back to this fellow, who stands up and walks out of the door. He then turns around, looks towards you all, and he says, "I gather from what my fellows tell me, you wish to have an official meeting with me. I've always found that a few meetings tend to go far more smoothly and more pleasantly with a good smoke." And he says, do you partake?" And he sort of like lifts up his pipe and like waves it a little bit.
Did we buy Dobie? I'm gonna have to check. Oh, damn it! I misclicked. I seem to have deleted one of my abilities, John.
Yeah, no problem. We'll sort it out later.
That. Okay, old Dobie. I don't think unless we filled up as a group, I don't think I
think
have
it's
any.
on the group list. Yeah, I've got one left, but I think we did get a group.
Seeing you checking your pockets, the mayor Kersey says, "Oh, it's not a problem." And he opens a drawer on his desk, takes out a leather pouch, and sort of like drops it on the desk. It's tied up with a leather thong, and as he drops it on the desk, it sort of like falls open a little bit, and you can see there's like a good measure of like old adobe in there, and you can smell the sort of fragrant, spicy aroma of the tobacco coming out. He says, "I'm afraid I can't help you with the pipes. I trust the civilized fellows. You've got your own."
Oh, pipes we have, but it seems we may have consumed the rest of our supplies on the road.
Well, you as I say, I generally prefer to start meetings with a good pipe. So have yourselves.
Yeah. So yeah, lighting up.
Yep. And he says, "Now, if I'm," and he takes out from his desk. You see, it's like the original like piece of paper that you gave to his guy. He takes out. He says, "I'm given to understand from this letter here from Miss Dixon," and when he says a name, his voice goes a little bit colder. It's quite clear that maybe they're not the best of friends, but he's still like being formal and places. "Miss Dixon, that you are to take over her duties as the Castellan protector of New Zealand with immediate effect. Is that correct?"
That would be the case, yes.
Well, I trust you'll forgive the fact that the delay with this. I'm sure you can imagine with all the recent events that have been going on and such like. We had to be sure. After all, we can't just go handing the the keys to the kingdom to any old person who comes along, can we? And he sort of chuckles a bit at his own joke. His like jowls wobble a little bit. And he says, "Now, have you given any thought?" As I say, I've checked the paperwork is genuine. I'm perfectly satisfied on that front. Have you given any thoughts as to what sort of how you wish to carry out your roles? Now, obviously, you have a little bit of leeway in this department, as was previously established with Miss Dixon. She was responsible for defence, the guards, etc. But largely, she left the day-to-day things in the hands of her deputy, her captain, whereas I handled all of the diplomatic matters, the matters of trade, anything that didn't involve stabbing a sword in someone's gizzard, basically. Now, of course, I'm perfectly prepared to continue in that regard, but since we've not had a change of the Castellan protector since the role was founded, we have a certain amount of leeway when it comes to how our relationship's going to work going forward in the division of labour and such like. Have you any thoughts on the matter, Mr. Lone Grove?
Well, I think the captain should continue doing what the good captain does. I'm under the impression that you're a businessman.
Yes, that's right. I made my money in the merchant business. I'm sure it's not quite as exciting as soldiering and whatnot, but it has its own perils. And well, I did rather well for myself, and if I do say so myself. And well, when it came that Miss Dixon wished to spend more of her time observing for possible threats from the west, if you know what I mean. She looked for someone who had the ear of the traders and the merchants, because wisely she realised that, although I think sometimes she forgets that, although security is important, the true lifeblood of New Zealand is trade. Well, after all, we have the great river running past us, but if the trade dries up, many of the people who travelled through New Zealand would cease to come here, and our revenue streams would quite dry up, and that would be very bad for everyone in the town. So I, as a well-known trader, and someone, like I say, who has the ear of the merchants, I was able to put my considerable resources towards ensuring that during the period of transition, we established ourselves as a reliable trading post. And thus the trade continues to flow and New Zealand continues to prosper.
Wonderful. And I would say that it makes all the sense in the world that you would see to the development and primarily, I suppose, the development of the commerce.
Well, yes, that is rather my specialty.
Now, when it comes to diplomacy, what need have we for diplomacy? Who are we talking to?
Well, I've there's nothing formal established yet, and obviously, I'm sure I don't have to tell you to keep this under your hat. But if you're, I haven't discussed this to anyone but my sort of trusted staff, and but since we're establishing our working relationship, I don't mind extending this olive branch, so to speak. But I'm looking at establishing trade ties with the relatively new fiefdom of Brackenwald to the northwest of here. It's one of those new domains that well, if you'll forgive my seemingly flippant phrase, just seem to pop into existence during the nights of colourless fire. But it's a fortified holding with a fairly strong trading position and a fairly skilled populace. It's my belief that establishing a regular trade route with them, albeit we'd either have to use the bridge here and travel up the great river, or we'd have to establish some other means. I don't much relish the thought of going directly over the rural hills to get to them, but I think if we establish a decent trade route with them, it could greatly benefit both of our settlements.
That sounds wonderful.
I've also I'm terribly sorry to interrupt. I've also I've made tentative, and I say tentative, steps towards approaching the Leng to the northeast, but their ways are quite strange and not like ours. So we're still in the early stages of that. It may come to nothing, but although they may not be as strong traders as the fiefdom of Brackenwald, their people have a great knowledge of this land, its dangers, its changes, and of the legends and laws going back many, many years. So I think if some sort of arrangement could be worked out with them, that might also benefit with us when it comes to an eye to expanding in the future. But like I say, that's in the very early tentative stages at the moment, because their ways are very strange and not like ours.
So I would say this falls under the purview of trade.
Yes, indeed. I say diplomacy. Most of the diplomacy I deal with directly involves trade and trade partners, establishing treaties that relate to trade and that sort of thing. If it was, for instance, a pact of mutual protection or something along a more military line, that would, of course, fall under your jurisdiction. Well, that's how we've done it previously. Although I don't wish to speak ill of your predecessor, but I do think that Miss Dixon has become a little distracted by all this business going on in the West, and her captain, he's a nice enough fellow, but doesn't really have the grasp of the subtleness necessary for his position.
Right. I think overall we're probably good to continue as we have. You have the best grip on trade. There's no sense disrupting any of that. The captain doesn't need me to tell him how to shoot bows or.
No.
So. For the immediate future, I would say let's continue.
Very well.
We'll-
I would suggest, again, sorry for interrupting, I would suggest that perhaps we agree to have a regular meeting to discuss any matters of import. I used to do this with your predecessor, but as I say, she's been terribly distracted recently by everything going on in the West.
Yes, I was going to say that we're probably going to treat this as a work in progress, I would say, and change things as they need changing. Have regular meetings about things of import.
Splendid. Well, you seem a most reasonable fellow, Mister Lone Grover. Please consider that to yourself, my door is always open. Obviously, if I'm in the middle of an important meeting, you may have to wait a little bit, but as I say, my door is always open should you have need of me, and I assume you'll be establishing yourself lodgings in the town?
With proper paperwork, I think.
No.
Doors are open.
That was just initially to ascertain that you were who you say you are, and the paperwork was genuine.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm satisfied of that, and it's been ratified. I have no problems with you assuming your position, and as I say, if my door is always open to you. I say if I'm in the middle of a particularly tense or important negotiation, I might ask you to wait a few moments while I conclude it or reach a natural pause. But please feel free to call on me at any time. I'm in truth, I'm somewhat relieved to see someone who, assuming the position, who hopefully can devote more time to it. As I say, I don't wish to speak ill of your predecessor, but I believe she's let her responsibilities slip in favour of focusing her eyes towards the Wormspire Mountain in recent years. Which I understand the need for defence, of course I do, but obviously you can't win the war abroad if the battle is lost at home, so to speak.
Yes, we'll we have more hands now.
Of course, well, I'm glad to see our relationship's off to such a splendid start. Is there anything else you need from me?
Well, I did grow up in Keystone. I understand.
Oh,
trade.
I'm from Keystone myself. Oh, splendid.
So we'll get on splendidly. Now, the one thing that we're probably going to have to deal with is that whatever form that's going to take here, let's say the trading concerns of lesser legitimate basis are either already here or they will be here eventually. And
I assume you're speaking of the recent rise in criminal activities.
Yes.
Yes, that is somewhat troubling. I was rather hoping that, given that this is potentially a security matter, albeit that it straddles the divide between the defensive applications of your role and, of course, the trade implications of mine. I have attempted to prompt your predecessor to further action on numerous occasions, but sadly there hasn't been a lot of movement in that regard. I hope now that we seem to be off to such a positive start that perhaps you might be able to make further inroads. After all, although I've been doing my best to keep a lid on it at the moment so it doesn't affect trade, if the crime levels continue to rise, if the merchants decide that it's not safe to trade here any longer, well then, the trade dries up, and that will be very bad for all of us.
Yes, and it's not only the trade that will be impacted by this, but as I said, that's probably something we're going to need to tend to right now, in fact.
Splendid.
As I do believe that, well, this phenomenon has arrived on these shores as well. But that's not for you to worry about. I will look into it, and I will consult you as appropriate, and for whatever needs I might have.
He takes out his monocle and like wipes it a little bit on his shirt, and he says, puts it back and says, "Well, splendid. Well, I look forward to hearing of your success in this endeavour."
Wonderful. All right. Well, I'll stand up and shake his hand if he's willing.
He exhales a voluminous cloud of smoke from his pipe, stands up, puts the pipe down, reaches out a pudgy hand and like shakes yours, and he says, "Well, as I say, my door is open, Mr. Lone Grove."
Wonderful. Wonderful.
And he sort of shouts to one of the guards who's been like lurking around outside the room. He's like, "Will you please show Mr. Lone Grove and his party out, and let it be known amongst the house guards that if Mr. Lone Grove ever should show up, he's to be conveyed directly to myself as soon as possible, assuming I am present. Is that understood?" The guard's like, "Oh, yes, of course, Mayor Kersey." He's like, "Well, I wish you success with your endeavours, Mr. Lone Grove.
You as well.
Please show the new Castellan out," he says to his guard, who's like now sort of like bowing and respectful. Says like, "Oh, if you please follow me, Lord Castellan." And he basically like walks you to the door.
I'll just thank you, and I leave.
I'll give him a friendly nudge, shoulder to shoulder, as I leave.
So as we go, this is like, Brock, it's really fucking weird when they're saying Mr. Longo, Lord Castellan, all that shit.
Yeah, it
Really
is.
fucking weird. It's one of the weirdest things in my life.
Yeah, he'll chuckle as we're walking along the street.
Okay, so
Discussing it.
as you guys are leaving, obviously Quentin has sort of brought you up to date on what he saw while he was doing his like scouting before he rejoined you. What do you guys want to do?
First of all, I think stash all money with Malcolm.
Yeah, that's not a problem.
We're going to draw him a map as to where we've gone.
Yep.
In case it all goes tits up.
Okay. So what I suggest we do now, guys, is we'll have a 5-minute comfort break. It'll give you guys a bit of a chance to think about like what you want to do with this Crimson Coin stuff. We can all use the facilities, etc. Come back in 5 minutes, and then we'll crack on with you guys like investigating or doing whatever you want to do with the Crimson Coin stuff. Does that sound alright?
Yep.
Okay, so back in 5 then.
Yep. So, John, I think it's probably hunting that I deleted from the abilities tab
Okay. Let me just have a
as I
quick
was
look.
trying to click.
Yeah, it's easily done, man.
different.
Yeah, it's easily done. Let me just have a quick look.
Because I don't have any special stuff. I think hunting's the sort of generic one that you put on everyone because we sort of everyone hunted.
Yeah. So foraging, opportunistic, and dedicated. You've got fishing. Yeah, it's hunting. Right, there we go. That should be back on your character sheet now. So how does it feel to be the Castellan of New Zealand finally? It's been a long time coming.
It's taken at least 10 years. No, that's it's an interesting place now, because we kind of started out as sort of with a small group of people, of course. So our position was a bit like, everyone who is here is important because we need everyone. And then we progressed to being more and more important. Like, we're the ones coming home with a sled full of gold, so no one else is doing that. So we sort of became the de facto leaders anyway. And then we disappear into fairyland and come back, and now basically everyone's been, governing this stuff for 10 years, and we're sort of like, I have the paperwork for it. It's ours, really. So it's a sort of fun, different take on what we were doing before, where it was sort of implied that we were leading New Zealand, because we had the most stuff. But yeah, no, it's fun, and I'm looking forward to sort of dipping our toe into, I suppose, talking to all of our new neighbors. Because I was looking at the map here, and the Great River, as mentioned, probably gets used for trade.
Yep.
There's Brackenwald. All kinds of cool stuff probably happens there, but the river starts in Vampire Land. So, so I was thinking about the river trade, and I think probably some of the river trade people that pass by our town are a bit sketch.
Yeah, I think that's a fairly safe assumption. So you say the river starts in the Black Spine Mountains, which is that's where the castle is with the King of Blood.
Yeah. No, I think one of the cool bits in this sort of revised land is figuring out our neighbors once again, because we had mapped them out all previously, but now it's different.
Rediscovery.
Yeah. It's like, we knew some Leng people, like we were there. Don't know what's going on there at all. It's been such a long time. We were there last time, and now everything's changed. So I think that's probably one of the sort of big pluses on us having the Castellan title. Like getting into meetings with these guys and being like, oh, we're big shots at home. You need to talk to us, so that we can actually talk to them.
Yeah. But like you say, you've got a bit of a, for want of a better term, like clout now. Mm-hmm. So you can be like, oh, I'm not just some like random like guy who's like walked in. Like, oh yeah, I'm like the Lord Defender of like New Zealand. Mm-hmm. So you've got the sort of like the backing of like that behind you, because you're like, oh, you know that like river that provides trade for everyone. We're like at the mouth of it. So you've got.
I might all stop laughing at you. Your fancy dress.
Yeah, my antique armor. People, everyone's like, "Oh, that guy's a cosplayer."
Well, you've got to remember, once you're effectively like a rich person in terms of power, you're not crazy anymore. You're eccentric.
Yeah, eccentric.
Yeah.
He's an enthusiast.
Yeah, they'll just be like, the Lord Lonegrove has a passion for antiques. Rather than just like, I've seen that weirdo in the armour.
They laugh behind your back instead of in front of your face.
Yeah. I'm gonna be the clown lord of New Zealand.
Okay then, guys. So you've had your meeting with Mayor Kersey. You've been told what Quentin has discovered in this abandoned warehouse. What's the plan?
The plan, I think, is for me to go in first because I'm a thief.
Well, yeah, makes sense.
And hopefully, if I get captured, then these two we'll probably stomp our way in and start killing people.
So that's hopefully you'll get captured, or if you get captured.
If I get captured.
Oh.
Yeah, so if you have a bit of faith.
If, you know, give it a minute.
What's the time of operation, you thinking?
What was the time that those two guys went in and out? Was it during the day or was it night?
It was just sort of dusk, just as like the day was turning into night. They sort of like ducked in there.
So, just after dusk.
Yeah, because I assume they'll have light in there, or else they won't be able to see.
Oh,
So.
the light's underneath it, because they're underneath
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But inside.
Yeah, I'll mark the crate with some chalk, so you know where to stomp.
Right. What's the stomp signal?
Probably,
Depends how far away you are when you send the signal.
Oh, it might not be me.
Okay. So, if Quentin's going in first, I presume you guys are going to be sort of like lurking around somewhere nearby, in case like
Yeah,
you
is
need
there
to
a-
send up the.
Is there a suitable lurking spot where we can see the crate and without being
there's
immediately obvious?
because the sort of like the poorer side of it, the south side, is a bit more sort of random. There's plenty of like little like twisty alleyways. It's like rather than the sort of slightly neater sort of masonry methods that have been used on the east side and the slightly upmarket districts. This is just like there's like a patch of land and people have just like put houses wherever they could find space. So it's all a bit more sort of chaotic and a bit more sort of random. So there's plenty of like little side streets and little alleyways, which presumably is like why this 𝐂𝐮𝐫𝐶, whatever they are, is like operating here, because like it's easier to lose people.
I think as well, we'll put some like raggedy cloaks over these two, so his armour doesn't shine in the moonlight.
Okay. Now,
And Brock
obviously,
doesn't stand out too much.
the only thing is when Wymar's moving, he does make a fair bit of noise because he's like fully clad in like plate mail.
Yeah, but we're leaving him round the corner, so it's okay.
Okay. No problem. You station Brock, Lan, and Wymar sort of round a corner. They've all got like just like cheap sort of like ragged travelling cloaks with like hoods pulled over them. What are you going to do, Quentin? As you sort of like you scope out this abandoned.
We set a
land?
time limit of some description as well. If he ain't come back within a certain amount of time.
You guys can do whatever you want. It's your plan.
Yeah. No, I meant what would you think?
We'll mark a
reasonable?
candle to say like 5 minutes or something like that.
Okay. Well, we give you 10 minutes.
Yeah, so we'll mark a candle. When it gets to that mark,
We'll come in if we haven't heard. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Brock will be a bit happier with that.
Okay, so you're effectively giving him like 10 minutes.
yeah.
Okay, not a problem. Not a problem. Okay, so I forget exactly how long a turn is, but yeah, we're not really in rounds anyway. So, okay, you've marked your candle. You guys have like got it. It's like slowly burning down. Quentin, over to you.
So I'll enter the warehouse with purpose, like I'm meant to be there.
Okay.
Because just because I haven't seen people doesn't mean they're not there.
That's very, very true. So, let me just check something. Okay, so you head into the warehouse. Okay, so as you head into the warehouse, you can see all the rubble and detritus as described previously. You can see the crate that you know is the one you've seen people entering by. And at the far end of the room, it's like just one big empty room. It's like a warehouse. You can see sort of like crouched down behind some boxes, obviously trying to remain hidden, but you've spotted them, is a guy wearing like a sort of mottled dark grey cloak. You can see he's like behind the box. He's basically got like a crossbow like rested on the box, and you just catch like a glint of like moonlight off the tip of the bolt that he's like got pointed like directly at the door that you've just entered by.
Nice. He knows I'm there, so
yeah,
just carry on going.
And in fact, as he says that, you sort of like walk into the room as he's got his crossbow, and you're sort of keeping an eye on him. Two people you didn't see like ghost out of the shadows either side of the door, and the first you know of them is when you feel like two sharp objects being like firmly, but not in a damaging way, being like pressed against your back. And a very sort of low voice says, "Well, that took you longer than we expected."
Perhaps with this infamous coin I'm hearing about.
Yeah, it must be. Perhaps you'd do us the favour of telling us why you laid out one of our lads, and why you've been like scoping out our place.
I did tell him.
Yes, yeah, he told us some bullshit about you've got a statue of a god in the city. Look, whatever you did to him, shit him up. He's not exactly the most reliable person. He's a good spotter, but I don't think he's going to go far in the organisation, if you know what I mean. Anyway, I'd like to hear it in your own words.
You're stealing from my town.
This ain't your town.
Of course it's my town.
He says, "Look." Well, the voice says, "Look, from where I'm standing, you're the guy with two daggers sticking into your back that may or may not be covered in poison. That's not exactly the position of power I'd expect a town ruler to find themselves in."
True, but I had to know how many of you there were.
You had like a slight chuckle from behind you, and then the voice says again, "Well, I'll give you marks for like having a pair of big brass testes for just like walking in here when you must have known that our spotter, as soon as he like woke up, was going to tell us. So I'll give you that. I'll do you the courtesy of like listening to what you've got to say. What does he want?
30% of your take."
You hear a sort of like spluttered laughter from behind you, and he's like, "Again, I'll give you top marks for like having a big pair of kahunas on you. But tell me, like, why should we give you 30% of our take instead of just like stabbing you to death here and now and not giving you 30% of our take? What's in it for us?"
Because if you carry on the way you're going, there's going to be no one to take it from, you twat.
Okay, at this point, I'm going to ask you to make me a charisma roll. And you get a -2 bonus, because you are actually like talking sense, you're talking their language, so to speak.
No.
Okay, so as you're saying that, the figure at the other end who had the crossbow stands up. Actually, he's like a fair bit shorter than you would have expected, obviously crouched down, stands up, takes off the hood, and you see a young woman with sort of one piercing blue eye. She has like an eye patch over the other, and sort of like short cut red hair. She puts the crossbow on the, sort of within easy reach, but on the crate next to her, takes out a cigar, effectively, like flint and steel, like lights the cigar, and then and she sort of like laughs a little bit, and she says, "Look, Mr.
Quentin."
look, Mr. Quentin, I can see you've obviously got a bit of talent. You know, you spotted our spotter, and for all his faults, he's good at his job. You've come walking in here, so obviously you can take care of yourself, because you wouldn't have just walked into the lion's den if you're worried about that. So I'll give you that. And like my associate says, you've got front. I like front. Let me make a counter proposal to you. And she like scratches her cheek just below the eye patch. She's got like a bit of scarring on there. She says, how about, instead of this business of 30%, because that ain't gonna fly. You're obviously a man of the world. You knew we weren't just gonna roll over and give you that. How about, we're always looking for new talent. How about we bring you in at a ground level? You show you've got talent, you might go far with the Crimson Coin. If you got a lot of talent, I might even put in a word with the Duke for you.
What's this Duke then? How much does he take off you?
Wow. It's not for me to say, but let's just say that he sets up the jobs, he takes his cut, but we do pretty well out of him.
So he's not offering you 70% to my 30.
Yeah, he takes a small percentage off the top. He's well out of danger himself. He doesn't need the money. So we do a lot better than 70% out of it.
Oh no, what's the cut?
He skims a 5% off the top.
5.
That's right, 5.
And then you split it all equally, I'm guessing.
That's right.
Oh then, 3%.
Okay, so you want us to give you 3% of our take, and what do we get in return for that? Because bear in mind that like, for shows of my finger for the 5% we get for the Duke, and bear in mind we'd be in this shit for crossing him. For the 5% the Duke takes, he sets us up a lot of jobs, puts a lot of business our way, keeps a lot of heat off us. And I'm aside from like your bit of sage wisdom there, I'm not really hearing what you're offering for your 3% that you want. Now,
Better jobs.
I'm not saying I'm not listening, but like, sell me on it.
Better jobs, continuing jobs. Because like I said, the way you lot are going, you're either going to get wiped out by the militia, or it's not going to be trade for very long.
Listen, once we've done our current job, things will settle back a bit and it'll be a bit more quiet. So don't worry.
Making too much noise.
That's what the Duke asked us to do. It's not a permanent thing. Don't worry about it. Yeah, we know.
Okay then.
We know that we've been stepping up operations. That's what we were asked to do. You know, make the town guard look a bit bad, muddy the reputation a bit. They can't catch us. Then once people have started like questioning, you know, how important are the guard in the town, we can relax things off a bit and go back to how they used to be.
That's not going to work.
Why not?
Because you're going to get found.
No, I don't think so.
I do.
And what makes you say that?
Well, I found you.
You found us, you're like one guy. Again, as I say, you've obviously got talent. You're one person. The guard have been fumbling around after us for months. And all they managed to find out is a name. That was all. Didn't know where we were, who we are, no nothing. And by the way,
I know now.
Wymar and Brock, your candle's now almost burnt down to the end. It's been 10 minutes.
They know now.
He says, they know our name. What else do they know?
where you are, how many of you are there.
It's not difficult for us to move now that we know that they know, is it?
You've got a couple of seconds to spare before they come crashing through the door.
It says, put it this way. If a load of town guard come crashing through this door now, the first thing they're going to have to do is step over your body.
Let's find out then, shall we?
Okay. Okay, so Wymar and Brock, what are you doing?
So I think we've been watching the candle.
Yep.
And as it gets to where it needs to be, I think we've Wymar's, shared a nod to Brock, just putting down the old helmet.
Yeah, weapons will be drawn.
Yeah, and in the distance, Quentin can hear. "Ah."
Yeah. The scene suddenly gets a good deal lighter.
Yeah. So, weapons out, shields out, helmet on, and going
Okay.
in.
They obviously, you can sort of see through the door because it's hanging off its hinges. You can see Quentin with these two guys with like knives, like literally they could just like go, and he's stabbed. They obviously hear you approaching the door because of your armor, and they can see it getting lighter outside. They don't know it's the sun sword. They probably think it's a lantern or something similar because they didn't hear. They're like, oh, as you drew it because you were down the street, and you're near the Temple District. So
Yeah.
as you sort of start approaching outside, you hear a firm female voice from inside, obviously like talking to you because the voice is pitched a little bit louder. The voice says, whoever you are out there, I have two people with knives at your man's back. The knives are poisoned. If you make any attempt to rush this building, your fellow will be dead before you get through the door.
If that happens, everyone here will die. Now, this is a very bad bargain for everyone, I think. I say, in response.
That's as may as well be, but we will not be the first to die. Now we can
I hardly think the order matters, really.
we can either talk, or you can step over the body of your friend and attempt to apprehend us. Which would you prefer?
I've already tried talking, you didn't like the offer.
What do you have to say?
Perhaps your friends have a better offer. They have not simply crashed through the door. They are not, from what I can see, looking through the door, they are not wearing the colours of the town guard. So I'm guessing that this is not an official raid. So I'm at least willing to talk further. Bear in mind, the two people at your back, Mr. Quentin, are not the only people I have concealed in this room. Many of my people are very skilled.
I'll just look at Wymar and say, well, we've got to listen to what she's got to say, surely.
Yeah.
If his life is
I'm
in
waiting.
their hands.
Okay. At which point, unless you're resisting Quentin, she sort of gestures for you to like approach, and the two guys will like keep the daggers on your back as you move forward. And then she says, well, come in then and let us talk.
Okay, I do.
Yeah, you head in. You can see there's like these crates lying around. She's stood behind one, crossbow and a crate next to her. This small sort of slender woman, red hair, combed to one side, eye patch, piercing blue eye, bit of scarring on the cheek with the eye patch. You see there's the two guys in the cloaks with like knives at Quentin's back. As you walk in, she says, there are also 6 men concealed in the shadows with crossbows trained on you.
I was going to say, does the sword light up the room enough for us to spot?
Probably. It does.
Spot any of them.
And as you walk in, you can see like there's like 3 people on either side of the room with crossbows, sort of like in the shadows.
Okay.
Well, they were in the shadows, but like the shadows are now not a thing. And she says, their crossbow bolts are poisoned lethally.
You don't need to lay out the inventory here. I get your deal. I've been on both ends of this. Now,
I just want to let you know how seriously I'm taking this situation, in case you get any funny ideas.
I hold up the sun sword.
She says, "Oh yeah, that's pretty."
Are you a person of faith?
She sort of sneers a bit, and then says, "Oh yeah, yeah." No, I'm not. In my experience, believing in the gods and expecting them to do things for you is all well and good, but in our game, you make your own luck. So your friend here's made an offer. He wants to skim a bit of our profits in return for better jobs and like keeping us away from the watchful eye. And she sort of like rolls her eyes of the town guard. What was it? 3%? Was it, Mr. Quentin?
Yep.
3%. Or our location, such as it is going to be revealed to his people. I presume you are said people.
Only some. I'm not a moron.
She nods and says, "My apologies. I didn't mean to imply that." So, what is it you wish to suggest? She says, looking at Wymar and...
I've tried explaining to her in simplistic terms that what they're doing is drawing down an ire of the guard.
Indeed, your associate, Mr. Quentin, has explained this to us, and I have attempted to explain that we are being compensated very well for kicking this particular bee's nest.
So basically, they're being paid so that the merchant trade goes away. What they can't figure out is, once the merchant trade goes away, there's not much for them to take.
So here's the question. Do you like to live dangerously on the road?
How do you mean?
Would you prefer a stable location, warm bed, food, bit of drink? Or do you prefer to live on the road, sleeping rough, facing danger, swords, guns, arrows, that sort of thing?
Well, let's just put it this way: if things don't go well in New Zealand, it's not like there aren't other towns. But
And what happens when you
obviously,
consume them too?
we're not being paid to stir up any other towns. Obviously, to answer your question, stranger, we would prefer to be sleeping in comfortable beds and all the creature comforts of home, of course we would. But for people like us, there's not a great deal of what you might call legitimate opportunities. You've obviously walked through South Side to get here. Tell me, as you look around here, did you see happy, affluent people going about their business? Or did you see poor people scratching a living? Compared to that, I much prefer the road we are now travelling.
So it's not so much about a commitment to basically being highway robbers. It's just you don't have a business plan for anything else. Is that it?
We're making the best of a bad lot, would be how I'd put it. And thanks to our benefactor, we do fairly well out of it.
Right. So, all this, and I wave the sword around. All this comes with the rest of this. What I'm saying is, they haven't yet figured out a city where this sort of thing wouldn't happen. I'm not saying your specific thing wouldn't happen, but there's an underbelly to every city, and I suppose what I'm asking you, and what I think Quentin is probably gesturing at as well, is do you want long-term arrangements or short-term arrangements in very different cities over time, gradually, burning the bridges behind you as you go? Do you want to be a rat living fat, or do you want to be a locust moving from field to field?
Okay, make me a charisma roll, Wymar. I'll give you a
shit.
-2 bonus.
This is fucking terrible. Okay, let's roll this. So, okay, so because I'm rolling under, I'm putting out the -2 as a
That's
-2
correct,
modifier on this. So here we go. That would be a negatory.
Okay. She says, look, as I've been explaining to your associate, we are being paid to foment distrust in the town guard. Once we've done that, things will settle back to normal. We're not trying to burn New Zealand down or consume it or whatever other fanciful term you made. We're simply trying to rock the boat a little, and then we'll settle back to normal. We'll scale back our operations to normal, and things will go back to the way they were before.
No, they won't.
I was going to say, I'm going to whisper to Wymar so they can't hear it. I assume we're far enough away. And just say, can't we just buy our way out of this situation temporarily? And just pay what they're being paid.
Kind of driving towards that, yeah.
You haven't thought about this, have you? You're thinking short term. We rise up, cause some political strife, and it won't affect us. Shit travels downhill, not up. You cause this strife and rock the political side of things. The mayor's not good at his job, etc., etc., etc. It trickles down. Trade gets less. Everything gets less, until the point where you have to move on, like a bunch of locusts. What we're saying is, scale down your operation and live fat.
Allow me to, if I may, present a hypothetical situation to you. Imagine New Zealand was negotiating a trade agreement with another area, and New Zealand was able to negotiate very favourable terms for itself due to its reputation as a safe and secure trading area. Now, imagine that its reputation was not destroyed, but just smudged a little, allowing the other party to negotiate for slightly more favourable terms on their behalf. And once that deal was signed, trade would continue to flow, albeit the fat cats in New Zealand wouldn't be getting quite the skim off the top they would like, but trade would continue. And once that agreement was signed, suddenly the crime spree draws to an end.
Let me put the poison in your scenario. You scale back. You're still all very wanted. Correct?
I believe so.
There's not so much for you to skim off the top, because it's already been taken out by the trade deal. So you suddenly find yourself having to take less and less and less and less until you're right back in the shit heap you started in.
You make a fair point. I'll give you that. But we've already accepted the commission to undertake this. If we turn around and renege on it now.
So what's the commission? What's the cost?
Obviously, I'm not going to go into the details and reveal who precisely we're doing business with, but let's just say
This Duke, I imagine, is from the other town.
no, the Duke is from New Zealand. However, he has friends in this other town, influential friends who could potentially make life very difficult for us if we reneged on our agreement. Now, I'm not saying that I'm unwilling to renege on this agreement. However, if this person decides to take measures against us to express their displeasure with our actions, where would that leave us then?
In the same place you always are. In the darkness looking for something.
As you're saying that, like, one of the guys at your back, sort of like almost under his breath, like Quentin, and you're like the only one who hears this. Although you see, as he says it, you see the woman look up, so she's obviously heard it as well. You hear him sort of like whisper, almost though he's like talking to himself or perhaps the other guy with the knife. He's like, yeah, Lord Brackenwold will have our guts for garters if we go back on the deal. And as soon as he says that, the woman at the table sort of like slams her hand down on the crane next to him. She's like, shut up. Like, to him, obviously.
Brackenwold.
Obviously, Wymar, Brock, you don't hear this guy do the whispering, but you hear it when Quentin's like, Brackenwold. He's like, she says, well, it appears, unfortunately, some of my men need a lesson on how to keep their tongues still and stop them from wagging in their mouths. And she like glares with her one good eye at this guy, and you see her sort of like just like rest her hand on a crossbow, and you hear this guy behind you like go like. Mm. But yes, since the cat's out of the bag, so to speak, yes, we've been retained on behalf of Lord Thespian Brackenwold. He's currently involved.
You know, it's not just you he's manipulating in all of this.
Everyone's always being manipulated by somebody else. That's how the game works.
How much for your services?
What do you want us to do?
Whatever I say.
Oh, I don't know if you could afford that. And she like smiles a little bit. She says, look, we're being paid as a group 50,000. Now, if you've got deeper pockets than the Brackenwolds, maybe we can work something out.
And that buys whatever he says?
That buys our services for the purpose of just like flicking a little bit of mud on the reputation of the New Zealand town guards. So he can play his hand in his trade negotiations and get some concessions or whatever the hell he's doing. From what I gather, before everything went to hell in a handbasket, back where he came from, he used to be a big shot. Suddenly, he finds himself, he used to be like the Lord of the Manor, cock of the walk. Suddenly, he finds himself here. He's got a bit of land, he's got a bit of influence, he's got lots of money, but he's not the big cheese anymore. He's not Mr. Number One. And he's trying to climb his way back to the pile, but now he's got to deal with other people. He can't just be like lording it about from his castle. And like a lot of these toffs, he doesn't like that. He wants to be the guy at the top of the heap. Pissing downhill, as you would say, Mr. Quentin. But you can say what you like I say. 50,000 was the agreement, half in advance, half after.
Say again.
Like I say, 50,000, half in advance, half after.
I put the sound sword back in the scabbard and I point a gauntlet and hand at her and say, is there any chance you and me could take a couple of minutes outside private talk?
What, so you can shank me with your glowing sword? It gives you a skeptical look.
I'll take off the weapon belt and I'll hand the sword to Brock.
Okay. It's sheathed, so that's not a problem.
Yeah, it's a little. I know. As I'm handing it, so just don't touch the fucking handle.
Yeah,
That ain't a problem.
she's like, okay, let's step outside and talk. And as she walks past, she turns to a man and she's like, if you hear my voice raised while I'm outside, shoot or stab first, and we'll worry about the cleanup later. And she obviously used to her orders being followed, strides past these people, so walks past you, Wymar, and then she's like, come on then.
Yeah, I'll go with her.
And you step outside into the mean streets of New Zealand.
the hard streets. So I'll
she reaches she throws a cloak back as she walks outside, and you see she's got almost like a bandolier. Like normally you'd have powder bags and powder horns in it, or pistols, and you see she's got a couple of pistols tucked in it, but the top 5 have got cigars tucked in it, and she takes one out flint and steel, lights it, and then she's holds it out to you.
Yeah, I'll take it.
And she lights herself one, takes a big drag on it. Like I say, this tiny woman just breathes out this cloud of smoke, and she's like, go on then, say your piece.
Is this imported?
I know a guy.
They make it here?
They don't make it here, but let's say it's not very financially viable to transport them. They don't last very long. But I know a few people. If you whisper the right words in someone's ear and a bit of money changes hands under the counters, occasionally they can slide a little bit in. Certain people have ways of avoiding the tax on them, if you know what I mean. But we're not here to discuss my personal habits. Although, if you want some of these, maybe we can sort that out.
Separate deal, but
Yeah.
I'm not paying any 50,000 for that.
No. Yeah. Even I wouldn't be ballsy enough to ask for 50,000 for a few cigars. They're nice. They ain't that nice.
So, whatever theater we have going back there, all this, your thing, this is, peanuts now.
Listen, to be honest with you, like you say, this is theatre. I'm not a murderer. Murder is bad for my business. So I'd prefer to find a way out of this that didn't involve us having to try and murder each other. But just because I find it distasteful doesn't mean I won't do it if I need to.
No, I'm the same. Same. Anyway. So I'm getting your deal is this is the Crimson Coin I suppose.
Yeah, she nods and says, yeah, yeah.
And what would you say your main line is when you're not taking very lucrative opportunities from very angry people to affect political change?
We do a little bit of smuggling, a little bit of robbing, nothing ridiculous, like small valuable items that are difficult to trace, jewelry, rare coins, the like. Nothing that does too much harm to anyone. Like I say, that's mainly how we've stayed away from the eyes of the town guard. We don't randomly kill people. We don't assassinate people. Like I say, that stuff's bad for business. We fence stuff, or we help people get stuff in when they don't want to pay the taxes on it. We take a bit off the top. Occasionally, if someone's like overflowing with the coins or produce, we relieve them of a little bit of it. We don't get too greedy with it, because again, that's bad for business. We just skim a little bit off the top to make our lives easier, and that's how we like things. And occasionally the Duke gives us these jobs where we'd like a one-time job, we get a big score for it, we split it between ourselves, he takes his 5% off the top, and then we carry on as before.
So it's a big risk doing something like this, and I wouldn't expect you to lay it all out for me here, but you're doing something that is, I suppose it wouldn't be too much of a stretch to say that it's sort of counter to your interests, counter to your baseline, and you're doing it because of the windfall.
You're absolutely right. The way I see it, we get this big windfall, which is more than enough for us to keep ourselves going during the small period it'll take for New Zealand to bounce back once the crime rate settles back to normal. When the trade deal's all done, we live like fat cats off that windfall for a bit. Once things start going back to normal, we slowly start back with the normal run of business.
So, how much to get Quentin in? He's you've already figured him out. He's a smart guy.
Yeah, I can
capable.
see he's got talent.
He's got, what it takes to walk up to you and start these proceedings.
Well, hell, I've already made the offer to him that he could start in on a ground level with us, and if he shows he's got talent, he could work his way up, and he might go far in the Crimson Coin. He didn't seem too keen when I made the offer.
So, how much does it cost to move up a few levels from the ground floor?
It doesn't cost anything. You've just got to put the hours in, go on jobs with us, prove that your skills are an asset to us, and that we're better off with you than we are without you. And you do enough jobs like that, you'll be moved up to more important jobs. Do them, you'll be moved on to more important jobs. That's how I started. It's not like the army. You can't just buy yourself a commission. You have to prove that you've got the talent if you want to go in far in the Crimson Coin.
That's.
I'm not saying your boy hasn't got the talent, but you got to put the work in and prove it.
I'm not thinking about him now. I'm thinking about the army. It used to be. That was me. Yeah. About talent, no. You're quite right on that one. Anyway, I thought that.
She says, "Well, I can see we've both been through a battles," and she scratches the area under her scars, and she nods at your peg leg.
No, that's you're getting to the actual point here now, and thanks for bearing through the rest of this stuff. And I look at her straight in the eyes.
She's like, "Look, don't get me wrong. If you'd have been a patrol of the town guard coming looking for us, well, one, you wouldn't have found the building in the first place. If somehow you had, you wouldn't have found us within the building. And by the time you'd mounted a full search, we'd have been long gone. Like I say, we don't tangle with the guard and we don't have to. But since you're not, your boy had the barefaced cheek to just like stroll in and start laying it down to us. What can I say? I find him entertaining, so I'm willing to talk. Otherwise, we'd have just melted back into the shadows, we'd have scattered, and we'd have reconvened elsewhere, and we'd have abandoned this building, and you wouldn't have found us.
And that's all well appreciated. However, it's a part of the theater that I'm sort of looking at the next act of, and for that, I've been asking about the prices all evening. Bear with me once more.
Okay. Well, let me make my offer. You're asking what price for retaining our services, is that correct?
Well, you already answered that, and I think that's something we're going to continue talking about down the line. But for now, I'd just be most interested in the price of getting a message to the Lord.
What, Brackenwold?
Hmm.
Yeah, we can get a message to Brackenwold. That's not a problem.
Yeah. So, if you would carry word that the Castellan of New Zealand has met with you and would prefer to talk with him in person.
Yeah, we've got channels. We can do that. I'm sure one of the Duke's men can pass that on. Like I say, he's got friends in high and low places. But in terms of your price that we were saying earlier, look, if you want us to like break this deal with Brackenwold, and you want to get us on side, look, it's not. I'll be honest with you, since we're just having this discussion between the two of us, it's not so much the money. It's the potential reprisals against my men. Now, like I say, Brackenwold's got a lot of influence. Like money buys influence, and if you can find some way of making sure that like my men are going to be safe, the only other thing I'd ask is what I'd really like is some form of legitimacy. I mean, as I was saying to your friend, Mr. Quentin, we didn't originally start doing this because we liked it. We did it to survive, and then we just got fucking good at it. And now, like I say, there ain't really many job opportunities for people from south the side like us. If either myself or like my people could get some sort of position of legitimacy where we didn't have to do this, and perhaps we could use our talents, I don't really like to say it, but in an honest way to make a living, perhaps we'd have to rethink our current lifestyle. But look, do you really see any, and she sort of gestures at herself, do you really see anyone giving a scrappy kid from the south side like me any position of authority, power and legitimacy in this city? I mean, as far as like that fucking fat knobber who calls himself the mayor, he wouldn't even think someone like me was fit to like shine his boots.
No, but there's new titles in town.
She like raises an eyebrow like, is there?
So the Castellan I mentioned carried the message back to Brackenwold that Castellan wants to talk. That's me.
Oh, I'd heard the Castellan was of a slightly more female persuasion. She says in a skeptical tone of voice.
Yeah. Used to be that way. Yeah, you can check in with the mayor. He has verified it by now to his satisfaction.
Oh yeah. I'll just book a meeting with him. Yeah, it'd be well happy to see me.
So, whatever way you're using, you're welcome to check up on that. But let's take that on faith for now.
Okay.
How's this for a plan? You need to go back there. I need to go back there. We need to look our parts, and well, we come to an agreement, we part, peacefully. Hopefully, no one starts throwing down. If that happens, I'm sorry for whatever follows, but we'll deal with that as we go.
As am I. If that does happen, do you have any loved ones you'd like me to contact to convey my regrets to?
No, it won't come to that.
I hope not.
Yes. And going forward, where shall we contact you again? Presuming that you'll want to abandon this place now that we know about it. Or maybe not.
Well, if you're saying that it's only you and your companions who know
Yes.
where our building is, I don't see any reason to. Obviously, we'll move some of our operations, but I don't see why we couldn't keep that building as a point of contact. We station someone there who keeps an eye on the place in case you need to contact us. Like I say, obviously, most of our operations will have to be moved, but it could become serviceable as a drop-off point, I suppose.
Yes. Something that we can use to talk. That's what we need. And we'll continue to talk. And well, I suppose my fellows there might have an interest in. Well, we'll hear what they say. But so the plan is as follows: you follow through with your little thing here, doing the Lord's bidding, and the Lord and the mayor have their own little dance that they do. That's what I understood anyway. And once that's done, they've, dried the ink on whatever agreement they wanted. And you're free from, well, at least this particular arrangement. By that point, I will have talked, and my fellows will have talked to Lord Brackenwald, and we, or I, shall endeavor to provide sufficient safety to you and yours so that you won't get reprisals for whatever comes next. Basically get you free from under the Lord's thumb if we can. You stick around. There's going to be an official new trading house established with you and yours at the helm, and you're going to go into business.
So, if you really are the new Castellan of New Zealand, as you say, effectively that elevates you to the status of a noble. That's correct, isn't it? I believe that's how it works.
Unfortunately, I guess so. Fuck.
Now, it occurs to me that a person who was a noble, just by dint of being a noble, has a certain amount of power and influence. Influence to say, protect their nearest and dearest from reprisals of a certain nature.
Sure. You're not saying we're going to get married, are you?
Is it such a terrible idea? A strictly business arrangement, obviously. I just want the title.
No, it's too early to start throwing that around. As you were unaware, so are many others. That's not going to be something to do right now.
Well, let's put that on the back burner for a while and revisit the idea of an alliance at a later date. But for now, I'm happy to take your communication. Well, have the Duke's men take your communication to Brackenwald. Whether he'll agree to meet with you, I don't know.
No, of course.
But and then, assuming that goes ahead, what do you wish us to do in the meantime? And as I said, I've already made the offer to your man, Mr. Quentin, that we'd quite happily at least trial him in our organisation.
I guess I'll ask him again when we go in. So, nothing really to be said or done about what's going to happen when we get there.
Well, I tell you what. How about this? Since you've dealt with us fairly, as far as I can ascertain, as a show of good faith, we'll scale back our operations for a week. Since if it does prove, and I don't mean any offence, if it does prove that you're playing us false, we can easily ramp up our operations again without fear of reprisal from Brackenwald. But it will at least show that we're willing to work with you, and then once you've met with Brackenwald, we can decide what else is to be done. How does that strike you?
That sounds very good. It doesn't do anything about what Quentin wants, but we'll hear more about that when we go back in. Now,
Okay.
How do you do it? Do you shake on it? Do you take daggers and carve bloody runes on your hands and share a blood oath? What is your thing?
I'm fine with just your word on the matter. You'll either stay true to your word. I don't go for all this pomp and ceremony. You'll either be true to your word or you won't. No amount of drawing blood or strange handshakes or anything like that's going to make an ounce of difference to that. You're either true to your word or you're not.
So, before we go back in, one final word. Aside from all this, everything we've talked about in the future, New Zealand, not even me specifically, but New Zealand in general, and me specifically, we're going to need people, and we're going to need a certain kind of people, the kind of people that have some hard iron in their souls. And
I think I might know some people.
I'm sure you do. And, well, something to think about. There's a place. However any of this goes, there's a place in New Zealand for people with the kind of iron that you've demonstrated amply now. And that's perhaps on me. Maybe it's just bravado, but make a good impression. So take that for what it is. And
I will. I'll think on it. Shall we head back inside and explain that an accord has been reached?
Yes. There will be appropriate posturing, of course.
Okay, so door opens. Wymar and this leader of the lieutenant of the Crimson Coin comes back in. This young woman, Martha Perkins. She sort of heads back round to behind the crate with the crossbow on it where she was before. Wymar obviously takes position next to Brock, and she sort of nods at you as though she's waiting for you to speak. Wymar.
So we've had a quick word, and there are opportunities going forward, which I'm sure my good friend and I gesture at their leader. My good friend will be outlining in detail, no doubt, going forward. Now, to sort of pick the highlights of this is, as evidenced by our extensive talks here tonight, everyone, there's no ill will. Objectively, there's business in the air. So we'll treat this as that and go forward with a little bit more mutual trust. One hopes perhaps in a week's time we will have determined if such a thing between us exists, and we will have communication channels open to talk. There's opportunities for everyone here currently going forward. I've made some suggestions to my good friend over here, and we'll see what shakes out, as they say. And one of the things to be determined is, Quentin, what do you want? Is there... Of course, apologize. We had a bit of a private negotiation there, but anything you in particular would like to put forward, given that you're, I suppose, our man in the know.
At which point, Martha Perkins looks at you, Quentin, and he says, your friend has suggested that, in the spirit of further contact between us, you be brought into our organisation and you act as our liaison to the rest of your fellows. I'm willing to give this a try if you are. At which point she goes like that and says, you can step away from him now. And the two guys look a bit uncertain, but they lower their knives and sort of step to the sides of the room.
And I motion at Quentin, like, everything's up to you. I laid down, some ideas, but of course.
Indeed, your friend has explained, Mr. Quentin, that you may be an asset to our organisation, and I have reiterated that we are certainly willing to trial you in the Crimson Coin, and should you have the impressive abilities that your friend here has been suggesting, I'm sure you could go far. And of course we have agreed to I suppose you could call it a ceasefire or a cessation of hostilities. We have agreed to
holiday.
Indeed, we have agreed to scale back our operations for the period of a week to give your friend time to have a certain meeting with a colleague of ours, and then once that meeting has taken place, we will meet to discuss how we go forward. The week's reprise is a gesture of good faith on our behalf. At which point, one of the other thieves is like, "Oh, what's the Duke gonna say about this?" And Perkins says, "I will explain to the Duke. He will understand." What say you, Mr. Quentin?
What do I want? I want to show your men up.
Well, if your skill level matches your opinion of your skill level, then I'm sure my men could learn a great deal from someone of your prodigious talents. And as I say, if your skill levels are indeed that high, you will rapidly find yourself moving up the ranks of the Crimson Coin. Who knows? Perhaps one day you may even surpass myself.
Okay.
Very well, then. There is I hesitate to call it a ceremony, but there is a little thing we do to welcome new people into the organisation. It's only for people who are prospective or already members of the organisation. I'm sure you understand. So if it's all the same, I will have to ask you, gentlemen, lady, and she looks at Brock, Wymar and Lan, I would have to ask you to leave the premises. We will induct Mr. Quentin into the organisation, and henceforth he will act as our liaison between the Crimson Coin and yourselves. Is that acceptable? And she looks at you, Wymar.
Quentin's is the final word.
It's fine. It's fine.
Very well. And she gestures to the door and she says, allow them to leave. And that no one challenges the rest of you as you leave. And as you leave, and Quentin starts undergoing the initiation into the Crimson Coin, that is where we are going to draw an end to this evening's session. I hope you all enjoyed it, guys. Thank you very much for playing.
Cheers, man.
Yes, thank you all.
And obviously we'll have a little bit of a discussion. We'll sort out XP and whatever afterwards. But for now, it just remains for me to thank my players. Hopefully we'll have Rob back with us next time, and you guys can have fun explaining to him all the tomfoolery that's gone on this session. But for now, if you're watching this either now or in the future, thanks very much. Hopefully we'll catch you on the next one. Take it easy.